You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 3 of Ghosted, the live show.
Hello.
Hi. You are listening to something that was recorded live in our friend's backyard.
Yes, and also enjoy this mess of croissants if you're on the YouTube. We just recorded Patreon and decided to become a little raccoony. We recorded that live show a couple weeks ago, and the audio, it was a learning experience. So some of the audio was a little worse for wear.
What Maia's trying to say is that the audio does not meet her standards for what our usual audio should sound like, but that the next couple episodes are shot back in our studio and will continue to meet those audio expectations. So if it feels windy at times, it's because at times it was windy.
And if you're sensitive to like clippy audio and stuff like that, or like if you don't love listening to that kind of stuff, you're here for more for like a relaxing kind of vibe, maybe this episode isn't for you. But it is pretty funny. So
it's a fun episode, and I think the thing that both you and I have really loved, at the top of the like list of things that we really enjoyed about it, is it gives you guys, the people who've been tuning into us for the last couple months, a chance to hear directly from so many of the wonderful people who we talk about. We get another story from Lee. You get to hear from Lydia and Danny. Tyler makes an appearance on the podcast this episode, and then many of our other beautiful and wonderful friends tell heartwarming, hilarious, and deeply relatable stories.
Yes, and another thing, the audio, we had some issues with the audio equipment, so some of the audio will sound okay. It came from these mics. Some of the audio, you'll notice it'll clip in and out in like 20-minute segments or so. So if at some point the audio doesn't sound super good, just like skip forward 30 seconds if you like really can't handle it, and it might be better audio. But that's an explanation of what you're hearing, just so you're not like, what?
Exactly. And it's also why as soon as you start listening, you're going to tell we're talking to a lot more people than just ourselves. But
But
I love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I love listening to it. And we really hope you guys enjoy it too.
Yes, and happy Halloween also.
Happy Halloween.
Okay, bye.
Bye. We want to wish everyone a happy Friday the 13th. Woo! We also would like to be able to say welcome to the first and hopefully not last live show of Well, I Laughed. But we don't actually know if we're going to like the audio that we get out of this evening or not. So it might be the first and only live event recording of Well, I Laugh. We're making history tonight, folks. And that's really exciting. I don't think they understand how cringe I am at the start of most of our episodes that you just fully cut out.
You gonna keep going? It's usually just Grant talking into space, and then, like, eventually I join in.
No, the actual real thing is I show up late, of course, and Casey's in the kitchen producing cocktails for us, and then Maia is, like, plugging things in and testing things, and I am on Hinge.
Similar to today.
And then Maia will go, all right, and then I'll look up, and then I'll say...
Well, are we recording?
Oh, are we recording? Hi, how are you? Let's go. And there's a cocktail in front of me, and Maya's staring at me like... And I was like, great question. My day was fantastic. Thank you.
How do you want to start this?
Do we need to explain what the theme is to everybody?
Probably.
Okay. So this episode is coming out right before Halloween, which we're super excited about. And when we realized that when Maia realized that in August,
Good call.
she was like, we need to do something special. And I was like, special, got it. And then on one of my terrible runs around O'Kane Park, I was like, what if it was special and complicated? I think that's really fun. And now we're here, and we chose the theme of Ghosted.
Ooh. Because Grant's had some trauma that he has unresolved.
I'm working through it. Me and Brene Brown in it together. I will say this, though. Every single person that we've talked to, and we're like, well, the theme is Ghosted. They've all been like, oh, do I have stories?
And then when I asked you to tell stories on our live show, you all go, oh, actually, no, I don't.
Me, ghosted?
Never been ghosted once in my life.
I'm a peach. What's that?
And so we are excited for what's going to be kind of a 3-part episode within the episode. We're going to start off first with an open mic night, and then we will take an intermission break because we're only really funny if you are cleaning the house or drinking. And then we'll come back, and I have a quick ghost story to share, and then there's another intermission, and then you have a ghost story to share. And those are the 3 parts.
Am I last?
You can be second. I can finish this up. That's totally fine.
No, sir.
That is my being like, I don't need to be the finisher. I don't
You
need
are the
closing
one that
number.
proposed this event, so.
Okay, well then I can go last. So, without further ado, are there any fun volunteers in the audience who would like to introduce themselves to our moderately listened to viewer base? They have big heads, not huge heads. Not yes, at least.
No,
They're
Grant
pretty
has a
big
huge
head.
head.
It's hard to get hats. It is actually really hard to buy hats. So does anyone want to volunteer to share their story first? Lydia, frequently mentioned. So as Lydia comes up, today we were driving around running errands, and there was a moment, because I'm listening to the episode that we're about to publish, Ahoy, which will be live at this point, and there's a moment in it where I say a really nice thing about Lydia, and it's really weird when she's sitting right next to you. I even go, Lydia, if you're listening to this, and Lydia turns her head and stares at me. It's a lot sweeter when you're not there to see the reaction. So without further ado, Lydia Wilkie.
Do you want
Am I supposed to sit here? What am I supposed to
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
there's a chair there, honey. No, we want you to stand.
talk,
You can
but I-
also move the chair back or the mic forward or
great.
whatever you want.
This
Okay.
is good.
Listener,
Here, I have my merch on for
I love
everybody.
it. Thank you.
I'm like someone like my co-host.
I thought it was too on the nose. What if we were
Too
both?
on brand.
I only have the sweater because you were thoughtful enough to get me the sweater, and then I felt like it'd look weird if we were in uniform. So.
All right. Do you want to start with how you're part of the Well I Laughed little multiverse we've got going?
I am part of the multiverse, I guess. This
We're
is
at
my
your house.
home. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We love it. So come over anytime. We want to do movies in the backyard, so we are here for it. Well, so I'm telling you a ghost story.
I hope
have
so.
2 of them, but
Exciting.
they're both incredibly short.
We're not asking
because I
for
haven't
long
dated for a
stories.
long time. So actually, none of them have to do with dating, which is what most of them are probably.
That's fine.
So
Right.
a couple years ago, I was in Seattle trying to do my lifelong dream of working in a bakery. So I go to the first interview. They interview me. It goes great. They invite me back for a working interview.
Oh, so there's like a little free labor.
I
out of
realize that
you.
now.
The first 17 episodes were like the big takeaway is you need to unionize your workplace. we were a workers' rights podcast during strike summer.
100%. So I go to this working interview, crush it. I looked cute. I had my headband on. I did the money, the till. I was handling cash for them.
It makes sense.
You
I've
were
been-
just working. That's not an interview.
Quick show of hands to all the cashiers out there. Have you ever referred to it as the till ever? 1 hand, 2. I worked at a discount grocery store. We did not call it the till.
I worked at Gap, so maybe
Nice.
a little higher up.
That feels fancy.
Yeah.
Didn't call me back. Didn't call me back. Literally didn't hear from them.
They were literally just getting free labor. That's how they managed their business.
It was one of my favorite bakeries in Seattle. I won't name who. I was like, okay, well now I'm never gonna shop here
No
again.
free advertising.
I can't eat their croissants anymore.
I love that you were ghosted by a bakery.
Of all the places to be ghosted by.
And 2, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it. Having been friends with Lydia for so long, I've had a chance to see the many different versions of Lydia's dream careers that she's pursued.
Fair.
And our senior year of college, Lydia was like, I don't know, I got these big dreams. I want to run a bakery that's also a flower shop, but then also we do sonograms in the back. And I was like, wait, I'm sorry, so it's they get an ultrasound and then an Americano?
Well-rounded business, I like to call it.
Your baby's healthy, here's some caffeine.
Yes, 100%. Flowers for your table too while you're at it. So I'm
You're
still
having
striving
twins,
to work.
and we have a 2-for-1 special on flower bouquets right now.
Triplets will make it even better.
Amazing. So then what's your second ghost
Second one
story?
isn't quite as fun, I suppose. I'm working on a lifelong project at Emerson Street. Basically never ending. Do not recommend buying a house that was built in the 1800s. It's
sounds
gonna be
horrible.
fine. So it took like a year for us to find an electrician to finally like work on it. And I have the guy. I will say his name. It's Rudy. Rudy, if you're out there. We talked to him. We had proposals. Like, it got to the point where like he didn't call me back, and I had to Google him to make sure he wasn't dead. He's like, nope, we're out. Like, can't do it. But didn't tell me, so I'm just assuming.
Yeah, because the last conversation he was like, cool, I'll go ahead and order these
My
parts.
dad even met him. No, he did order a part. He's like, these are really hard to get right now. I'm gonna just put the order in now, so that way in 3 months we can actually start the work. I'm like, okay, cool. Didn't ever show up.
Because there's also so many projects happening at that house
Yeah.
that I knew the electric work was supposed to start soon, and then I didn't notice it starting. But I was like, okay, I've never flipped a 100-year-old house. And then eventually I was like, so are you guys gonna, or do you just not need to replace the electricity? And you're like, no, listen to this. He fucking dipped us.
Is this the same time that you dug the trench? Or is
No,
it
that's with
different?
the new electrician. That's with the new electrician who we finally hired, and everything's going
For
good.
those of you who didn't know, they dug a trench at 4 a.m. one time in the middle of Denver because the electrician was supposed to come the next morning
And it didn't go. But we had snacks.
There was a moment where you're swinging a pickaxe at 3 a.m. in the heart of Uptown, and you're like, how did we get here, and what is going on?
Just the drunk bystanders walking by in the
But-
alley. That was fun.
I mean, it still fits into the theme of Ghosted because the guy that was supposed to dig that trench for you did a couple feet and then just disappeared as well. Lydia's favorite thing is like, I know a guy, and it's like, is he from Craigslist? And Lydia's like, duh.
And now I have them all in my contacts.
And we love it.
frugal. We love it.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
such a wonderful supporter. Let's give it up for Lydia. That was great. We need about 25 more minutes of that, so who's next? Anyone want to volunteer?
There it is.
Yay! This is my dear friend Haiden. We're going to try to remember to only do first names unless you want to be found on the internet. Out of everyone here, I think you've actually known me the longest.
I will take that cake.
Can
absolutely.
I share our origin story?
Please.
Hayden and I, when we were 14 years old, competed against each other in original oratory at a speech tournament in Lincoln, Nebraska. So if you think I have a lot of bad opinions now, imagine being rewarded for it. And Hayden met that version of me that also had hair. I mean, kind of, but like, yeah, like hair. And she was like, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to be friends with him. And then like a bad rash, it just never go away.
Did you get an award? Is it coming in the mail?
I certainly didn't.
She was really good at dramatic interpretation. If you're asking about speech awards, yes. If you're asking about
Being your
friendship
friend,
awards,
yeah, for that long.
that's really hard to hear.
I'll be expecting that award soon, yes. You can cash that in later.
Hayden, in addition to being a style fashionista, love
cute.
the white corduroy you got going on. Do you want to jump into a story, or do you want to like let the audience know what you do during the day?
We'll do a little bit of both.
I love it.
So I'm a travel nurse, and I have found my way to Denver twice now because I just can't get enough. None of my ghosting stories relate to Denver, but
all right.
when I was talking to friends in preparation for tonight, I did ask, like, does anyone remember a time I've been ghosted? Because I haven't been in a relationship since I was like in high school.
Right.
So there's been many times, and I just can't sort through them all. I've tried to like seal that up away in a file way back there. And the closest thing that I can even dig up was that I moved to Kansas City in 2019, right before COVID hit. And that was a terrible time to start trying to date anyone.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a terrible time to be in Kansas City.
And I was like, no,
yeah, I
it's a
think that was
wonder-
about 100 years ago was the last time it was
wonderful
good
time
to be in Kansas City.
We had just won the Super Bowl. It was great.
Oh, okay.
And that was like not last year, but the first time.
Right.
It was great. No, so I had started working as a nurse, and I traveled to 4 different hospitals hospitals. And I had also started bumbling because on night shift, there's not always a lot to do. And the older nurses love to flip through my Bumble. They think it's the best thing in the world.
Can we actually pause and just comment on that for a second?
Absolutely.
Your happy coupled friends who support you and let you into your house when someone force makes out with you at the end of a date love to play their favorite game on your phone, which is your dating life. And they're like, ooh, can I see your profile? Can I swipe for you? So is it left or right? And it's just like salt in the wound. They're like, I don't even know how to work this. What do? Do you just shout I'm lonely into it?
And I've been like wading through these waters for 10 years. I'm like, I remember Tinder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, what you don't understand is that there's both no one in his photo or you can't tell who he is in his photo.
Yeah.
Both red flags.
Tyler, are you listening?
So one of these nights we were going through and I happened to be texting someone at the time from Bumble, and he mentioned that he worked at one of the hospitals that I worked for, but he was an admin. He was on day shift. I was never going to run into him. Convenient. And that should have been a red flag then. But I proceeded to talk to him for about 2 months, and every single time we would set up a plan, it would fall through. And it was always my fault because I worked nights and I would sleep during the day, and he'd be like, man, I didn't hear from you all day. So I made new plans every single time. And I was like, this is getting a little weird. So we were at the hospital he worked at on a night shift around 3 a.m., kind of like a boring witching hour where you're either going to fall asleep or things are going to get weird, right?
And one would hope at a children's hospital. She's a baby nurse. Does she not know that part?
So the kids were all asleep. And
Been there, get it.
I was like, man, you guys, I don't know. I haven't heard from him in a couple days. It's kind of weird. He made it seem like it was all my fault. And one of the nurses is like, hey, have you heard of a spy dialer? And I was like, I have no idea what that is. And she's like, put his phone number into this website.
Write that down.
And all of the nurses are like wrapped around the computer behind me. And as I'm typing the digits in, and the name comes up, and it's not his, it's a woman's name. And everyone behind me does a collective gasp and stops talking. And I like turn to look at everyone behind me, and I'm like, all right, someone's got to tell me what that was about. And finally someone says, that's a nurse. She works in the emergency department. She's married to an administrator here. His name's not Blake.
That could be a whole episode.
Wait. She had been using her husband's photos?
No, this man had lied about his profile, his name. He was an administrator at the hospital, and his wife worked in the emergency department, and that's how he knew everything about what I did at work, how night shift worked. He was so supportive of, like my sleep schedule and how I have to live my life. Yeah, because his wife did night shifts in the ED emergency room. So
you met his wife? Did you ever meet? Did you ever run into each other?
They said she was a scary, scary human. And I called him that next morning and I said, hey, like, jig is up. We know who she is. Right. We looked it all up. One of my coworkers looked up her home on White Pages and like Zillowed it. And I was like, yep, all of these photos that he has sent, that's the bathroom, that's the master bath, that's the bedroom.
I love Zillow so much.
T's crossed, I's dotted. That is him. They have 3 children.
So on the phone call with him, does he like confess to anything? What happens?
He did eventually confess. He wanted to know how I figured it out. And then he was just like, yeah, man, I don't know. It's not really working out with her. So like just maintained that he was doing nothing wrong. It wasn't going to, ruffle any feathers at home. And I was like, interesting. Should I walk back into the emergency department or no? And then if you want to call that ghosting, that was the last time we talked.
I think the entire experience is ghosting. Maya's always better at this phrase than I am, but it's like men will literally ruin an entire hospital.
Their wife in ED instead of going to therapy.
Exactly. So did you like unmatch, or like how much longer did you see Because it's fun to kind of see if they update their photos or if they finally get that grad degree, you know? Like, you can...
I can promise you he wasn't pursuing much.
Outside of the dating apps.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct,
okay,
yes.
okay, yeah.
Besides maybe a fourth child, I don't know. Yeah, no.
For that child's sake, I hope not.
Blake, wherever you're at, fuck off.
We love it.
Yay.
Give her a round of applause. Woo!
Casey, you gave me a meaningful look at a certain point in Hayden's story, and I know what you're thinking.
I love also, I know this is like, again, mostly an audio format, but Casey could not be more in the corner of this backyard.
And he's like even curled into
Yes.
himself in the corner.
When Jacob and Lydia eventually get chickens, because they're those kind of white millennials, it'll be where Casey is sitting at right now in the yard. Ladies and gentlemen, Casey. Come on up, Casey. Woo!
Yeah, Casey! We both
Casey's
knew that if we asked, he would say no,
I
right?
gave a little like tangent to like let him emotionally prepare.
Yeah, he figured it out.
Casey is the only Patreon subscriber in this backyard tonight. This is his first nomination, first time speaking.
First nomination.
So the real problem with this is
All right, children.
I came
Tyler.
not prepared for this. I came prepared to sit in my corner, huddled up, like
Want to
like
tell the people how
like
you
a small penguin.
are part of the Well I Left multiverse?
I am the ghost third member of this podcast.
100%.
No, that's Tyler. You're
That's
on the
Tyler. Oh well.
We haven't gotten him a mic yet, but sometimes if it's taking a while to get our cocktails, we'll kind of get started, and you can hear him chime in from the kitchen.
We're actually just gonna leave it up in the office, and then as these two are cackling, I can occasionally just pitch in. It'd be great.
Sometimes when Casey needs something, you'll see his feet at the top of the stairs.
Like a child.
Yes.
Because I have to wait. I've gotten pretty good about telling when they're gonna finish, and so when it gets like last 10-15 minutes, I usually go sit at the top of the stairs. It was 2 or 3 podcasts ago. I was sitting at the top of the stairs, but I had a hat on and really dark clothes, and neither of our dogs recognized me, and they went belligerent.
I love that during the fun part of all the episodes, you're doing your own thing upstairs, and then in the last 10 minutes when we're like, and that's what we just haven't understood about sexism in this country, is the
like,
way it is.
Food is really hard to like cope with.
We've both
you
struggled
know?
with that. And then there's just Casey at the top, waiting for mom and dad to check if Santa came or not.
It's more like the bartender's waiting to come serve you more drinks.
It's more accurate. How were you ghosted?
Oh,
By me.
Maya ghosted me quite a few times. Maya and I met at a college bar.
Wait, hold on. So you weren't a hospital administrator when you met
actually,
Maya?
actually, I was a hospital patient. But no, so Maya and I met, and then she misspelled her name in my phone.
Drunk. It was a bar.
Do you remember how you spelled it?
Nope.
I actually don't either. I deleted
Okay,
those
well,
texts.
excellent. Moving on.
I misspelled Maya's name by accident in a couple Patreon messages, and she wanted to let everyone know.
But then what did she do?
She said, she was like, wow, I can't believe Grant misspelled me name. And then like 3 episodes later, she did a whole episode on pirates. So you tell me if it was a coincidence
I
or
was
not.
manifesting.
Okay, so hold on. So you meet in a bar.
So we meet in a bar. Maya knows of me through a friend, and she walks up to me and says hi, does the whole meet and greet thingy, asks to put her name in my phone, misspells it, and then the next day I'm of course texting her because again, audio podcast.
Right.
I get it. It's
No,
not me.
I'm funny. She's pretty. We've laid this out in episode 12. But it's so much more important.
But so I start texting her, of course, and set up a date. Oh, last minute, I can't go. Another date. Oh, last minute, I can't go. I can't. Another date, can't go. I don't know. I just had something come up.
These
My
were all
dog.
the same day. That I was like, oops.
These were like 3 different
Yeah.
dates. It was like a month.
I know, but all on the same day.
But if you've
of
ever-
the day.
If you've ever met me, I have no game. None.
Or
whatsoever.
self-respect is what it sounds. No one's gonna listen. I'm speaking to everyone except the 2 people happily together right now. 4. Sorry, I forget 2 of you are up here. Wait, hold on. 1, 2. I count real quick.
6.
Listen, when you propose a date and they say no, if they don't then propose another date, shut it down. Shut it down. Pack it up. Go on a run. Okay. You done goofed. But you didn't know that, and that's so sweet. I love that.
I've always heard that some people keep something on the back burner. I don't have a stove.
It's just all out here.
Casey I got asked one time if I was like ever worried that Casey was going to cheat on me, and I don't know if the question was genuine or not, but my gut response was,
She was right.
There's another time a friend of a friend was hitting on Casey in front of me, and I was pissed the
Unbeknownst
entire
to me.
night. Yes. The next day, I was like, did you realize that so-and-so's hitting on you? And he was like, oh.
It'd be nice.
I just thought they were really into mechanical engineering.
She was also an engineer.
Again, I've said this
People
before.
don't usually hold conversations with me for that long.
Or when you advertise yourselves like that. No, my brother still remembers you because you talked HVAC systems with him at a party. And when I hold a party, there's like nice meat and cheeses, gay men and straight women. And so my brother's like, there was another person there. And we talked engineering for like 45 minutes.
Anyways,
yeah,
we're
what's
engaged now, so everything's fine.
Wait, hold on. But what's the? Just tell us a little bit between the you saying no many times and Casey not getting the hint, and you both being, well, mainly you being on stage now, Casey.
Yeah,
what was
yeah,
that
Maia.
bridge?
I was going through a hoe phase, and I think one of my friends, the reason I knew of Casey was that my friend was like, you should hook up with my hot neighbor. Casey was said hot neighbor. The picture I got shown of Casey looks nothing like this.
To be fair, I did take it.
I got catfish. But anyway, I think somewhere in the back of my head I was like, if I start dating this guy, I'm not gonna be able to like fuck around and find out anymore. And so, I don't know. I did have reasons. They weren't valid, but
Again, I wasn't going anywhere.
To the 7 gay people listening to this right now, this is when you don't hook up, but you don't unmatch each other, and you keep liking each other's Instagram stories for 7 months because you just hate to close a door, you know?
Maia had a stove. She had a back burner.
are you listening?
Oh, I looked directly at Danny when I said all of that. I was like, when's
And
fall
triangle.
break for that one university? No, last thing I'll say before we let you, because you're kind of squirming, before we let you go back to
Oh, you mean when you
what?
you put me on the spot?
It's really fun when people are nervous to be like, are you nervous? Last thing I'll
Actually,
say,
always.
I've said this before, and this is another prime example where I will look at them and I'll go, sometimes your guys' love, it's just, wow, you know? And it's almost always, it's like really sweet, but sometimes it's like, how? Sometimes the wow is actually just a shortened of how.
So maybe a go away.
I think it's a round of applause.
Yeah.
I think that's what that is.
Oh, thank you.
It's never a go away, but yeah, get off the stage.
We love it. We love it. Do we have one? We have a volunteer. Don't say his name. No one clap. I'm kidding.
What we were doing when you asked me if you could date Casey?
No.
No.
Hey, dear guest, do you want to tell everyone
know me. I don't know what the
what
camera
your
is.
name is?
My
Just
name?
first name.
Yeah, what's your
My name is Bella Hadid.
Okay, you're gonna have to be a lot closer to the mic. He's
and also
so
a lot
new to
louder
this.
for the people that
Fine,
are 20
fine,
feet away
fine.
from you.
So my name is Tyler.
It's Tyler.
I am part of the cinematic universe too, I guess. I think my reputation has preceded me. But I came up here to actually go back to your first.
Oh,
like,
I'm sorry.
little
We
thing.
weren't
have
ready
a
for you to
story
jump in
or
yet.
not?
No, one
No,
second.
I have stories. I have
We
stories.
actually talked about this because there was this big mystery of like, why were they so obsessed with Tyler at the beginning, right? Like, we have a lot of really interesting friends, and we're thrilled that you're here. But it was like, why is it Tyler? And then we realized all the people we were talking about were people we were doing things with. And then anytime we mentioned Tyler, we were like, oh, that terrible thing you just said, that reminds me of a thing Tyler did once. Because you were in Europe, so there wasn't any immediate stories, so it was just a highlight reel of your worst
terrible
moments.
things to children.
Listen, when you
You speed up. Dear listener, we were on the Autobahn in Germany.
Dear listener.
And
No, not the Autobahn.
No,
it was just a side-
no, we were on the Autobahn, and Tyler was driving for the first time in 2 years, and I was terrified, so I was reading a book, and then I felt my body felt us cross 6 lanes at once. And also, it's the Autobahn, so there's no speed limit, so just go ahead and guess what a
210
gay
kilometers an hour.
man is driving. And I look up, and when I look up, all I see is the divider between the interstate and the off-ramp, and so I look up from my book and just instinctually go, and I'm sorry for this, but I go, which means now, if I were to ever die in a car accident, I'm also going to be covered in vomit. I'm a much safer driver now. And then we pull into this town. And again, I'm like, I can't watch a single thing that's about to happen. And we like slow down because again, it's a town. And then Maia goes, "Oh, are those children?" And then I felt my back hit the seat, and I look up and I go, "Did we speed up? Like I might be on vacation from teaching, but I don't want to run them over."
The yellow line.
We are in the birthplace of pedestrian, walk-friendly cities, and Tyler's over here like, think I can clip him?
100 points each.
Anyways, then we got to the Airbnb, and his German wasn't helpful, so I'm glad we brought him along. Did you have a story?
I do.
The
No, I have
theme's
a story.
ghosted. The theme's ghosted.
As if. No, but actually, I wanted to finish up. I wanted to finish up on the Casey story. Do you not remember where we were?
I have a memory of what's happened when Casey and I first started dating and you and I went out.
Yeah, so, well, we're going to go back a little bit farther. You remember when we were sitting in the RTD parking lot, and Maya and I had just gotten out of long relationships, right? And we're sitting there and we're like, oh my God, wasn't he horrible to us? He was so bad for you. Yes, I agree. And we're both sitting there like crying in a parking lot.
If it makes you feel better, listener, Tyler talked about this relationship this morning
You
on
don't
a
even
hike
know
with
which
me.
name I'm going to bring up yet.
I have a good idea. I have a really
There are
good
3
idea.
to choose from.
There are 3 to choose from.
Not a big match. And so we were sitting there, and I just like remember distinctly the exact photo she's talking about when she was like, "This looks nothing like him." Because we, on a Tuesday, went to this little place called Cannonball Brewing. No free advertising, but it's a good brewery. And we went there on a Tuesday night, right? And Maya's like, so I met this boy. This is what he looks like. Model, steely blue eyes, black and white photo, the lighting dramatic, right? And I was like, would you look at him? And I think you guys had just gone on your first date where you took pictures of each other. Like there was like a
We did
photo
take
shoot,
it was like
Hot
second
again.
or third photo.
right? Because he's also a photographer. He might do weddings. Ask him. And so she's sitting there. She's like, honestly, should I call him my boyfriend? I'm not sure yet. I don't know if this is before or after she ghosted him.
No way did that happen.
I do remember this. No, I remember this
We
because
went on a first date already at that point.
it was.
It was after I
I
Wait,
remember this.
did you ask Casey, or did Casey ask you? Who asked you?
I gave him my contact information.
I assume Casey spelled out "in cheese" with like a little baby bell at the end. Date me.
At the bottom of the exclamation point.
I think this was after me and Casey had started dating because you and I were both unhappy with our past relationships and we're still getting over them. So we were both crying over our exes. And Casey, at some point, we went over to his house.
Yes.
And you played caps with him.
I remember that.
We were like, do you ever? I think you asked him. You were like, are you jealous that she's talking about her ex or something like that? Yeah.
we did talk about our exes a lot.
This is going to shock no one who's listened to any second of this podcast. You don't bring people around Tyler until you're really sure about that person. Until you've established
It's a good way to test
communication.
them.
Listen, until you've had that phone or that conversation driving away from an event where it's like quiet as you pull out of the parking lot, and then someone goes, "So."
Don't you dare!
I will strangle you to death.
Podcast.
And that's been Tyler, everybody. Round of applause.
Do you have a story?
did, but I could go.
Nothing useful up here.
Actually, it's so true to your legacy on this podcast that this would be all you said. Share your fucking story.
Wait, one more. Do you remember who I was?
No more.
Okay. I have my story. So, I was sitting there in France, and let me tell you, the French are mean. Probably the meanest in Europe. And I had went and hung out with this German guy in French because the Germans are quite nice, actually. And we had started this little like climbing group together where it was me, my friend Michael, the German. I met him on Grindr, no more details. And then our other friend Valentin, who seemed gay, was not. We checked. And then there was this other guy.
That is actually how you have to do it, though. You're like, what?
That's how Tyler has
Listen,
to do it.
every time Jacob gets checked, I get a free gin and tonic.
I still get one free ride, and I haven't cashed in yet. But
It's with your Kohl's Cash and your Bed Bath & Beyond coupons.
and so
There's a snort in the audience, and I'm obsessed.
and so randomly this other guy like comes and starts climbing with us because he's hitting on Valentin, wrong tree, right? The straight one. And at one point, Michael and I like talk about Grindr for a second, how terrible it is, because really, it's where you go to need therapy.
Yes.
So afterwards, we're walking out, and he's like, "Why were you talking about Grindr?" And I was like, "We're gay." And then he goes, "I am also gay," and I go, "Interesting." And he goes, "These are expensive Japanese lips."
No one else has watched Caleb Gallo but you and me
And so
like
anyway-
Trixie.
And so anyway, we start making these like internal jokes, and he's like, okay,
Who's
Americans.
he? Give us a name.
His name's Pharaoh,
Okay.
or Fawa, if you want to say it French.
All right.
Kind of weird.
Calm down.
Yeah, so we'll say Pharaoh, spelt the way you think it is, with a P and an H. And so we started making this.
I had no
No,
idea
you guys-
how to
You guys like Egypt,
My
like
favorite
Egypt.
part about spelled the way you think it is, and then he spells it for you, saving no time on either end.
My favorite part was when he said, spell the way you think it is, and everyone in the audience collectively went,
I don't know.
what?
I've never once met a person named that.
And so we started just making this joke because apparently Americans are very non-confrontational. We don't like to set real plans. We'll say, "I'm going to go do this thing. You can come if you want." Like, no pressure.
We just
right?
heard a story about Maia, this exact same theme. Yeah,
Really?
absolutely.
So I was sitting there and I thought it'd be clever because I was thinking like maybe I should ask him on a date. Like, you know, we'd kind of gotten along. He climbs better than me, sexy. And so I was like, hey, I'm gonna, not really funny in retrospect, but whatever. I was like, I'm gonna go on a date next week. You can come if you want.
Sorry, because he laughed through that entire thing. He said, "I'm gonna go on a date next week, comma, you can come if you want."
And he
Have you already
said-
sized me up for your skin suit? What the fuck?
And then he says that, he's like, he got the joke. He's like, "That's really cute. I like what you did there." No.
The first person with self-respect on the stage tonight.
you very much.
Pharo.
And so we ended up not going on that day, but we kept kind of hanging out, right? And then another night comes up where we go out and like we get drunk with our friends and we get a little drunk, and at the end we're like kind of sitting there and he's like, "You know, if you want you can come over to my house." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "We're not gonna make out or anything. Like, don't make it like that. But that's not what we're doing. We're just, you know, if you wanted to." And I was like, "Well, this is weird now." So didn't do that. And then it was Grenoble Pride, and Grenoble's this like town in the Alps in France, right? A little bit homophobic, the Colorado Springs of France, right? And so our Pride festival,
100%.
not a great dating scene. Though. Like my options, if not Pharaoh, was Michael.
Well, hold on. The question for you, is there just a bunch of really weird conservative gay dudes around? Because then it really is the Colorado Springs of France.
But those, they're all bottoms.
They really are. I'm sorry.
We can cut that. You got that. And so we were sitting there and like they were like, "Okay, so there have been threats on the Pride, so we're gonna put it in a little park and like surveil all of the exits and entrances or whatever." And Pharaoh ends up coming with, and he also comes with me and my two lesbian friends from Argentina. Love them. They probably don't listen to this podcast, but anyway. And so we're sitting there and it's like every time.
I went to Europe and it changed my life.
And I have friends from other countries too. But anyways, I was talking about a man who has
America.
clearly said he's not interested in me.
So anyway, here's the thing. If the lesbians know one thing, it's how to read a room. And they were sitting there, and it's like every time I left, I'd come back and they'd be like, "Pharaoh was looking for you." Like as soon as you left, he was like, "Where did you go?" Right? And then like the Pride Parade broke out of the little park, and we went on like my first ever grassroots march around a town for Pride because they didn't want us there. So, and we were like stopping trams and stuff, right? And as we were sitting there, he like stopped me. He's like, "Tyler, I'm so happy I met you. Like, you really are one of the coolest friends I've met here. It's so sweet.
People don't normally say nice things about themselves on this podcast. I want you to know. I know you're speaking in the voice of another person, but this is not the content we put out.
And so anyway, that got me really. I'm like, is this a second chance? Although my friends can read the room, I can't. And so I end up like kind of going along with, and like things are getting kind of fun. And I'm like, hey, like, if you wanted, now we could come back to my place, and it doesn't have to be not kissing like you said last time. He's like, oh, Tyler, let's not make it like that. And I was like, I don't understand. I thought I was the best friend you had. And so all of these stories last probably about 4 months, and I finally decided I'm not hanging out with him anymore. This is bad for me, right?
That's so long.
No. We're not to the
I've heard
ghosted
this
part
story
yet,
now
yeah.
7 times.
Yeah.
It is the only story he shared with me since the time I saw him at the train station in Munich. I heard it this morning.
I got 3. I use them. And so we were sitting there, and I was like, I'm not going to see him anymore. And it was my last day in Grenoble, but I wanted to go climbing at this outdoor climbing place called the Coup de Sabre, right? And I was like, Michael, will you go with me? And he was like, no, I'm busy, but you can use my gear. And I was like, Valentin, go with me. I really don't want to go with Pharaoh. And he's like, I'm busy. And then Pharaoh was like, I'd love to go with you for your last climbing trip in France, right? And I was like, oh, fuck. And here's the thing, is like outdoor climbing, if anyone's ever done it, is kind of an erotic sport.
No, it's not.
Our first heckler, ladies and gentlemen.
That was Lee, ladies and gentlemen. That was Lee.
He's back.
From Hawaii.
I'm sorry, can you do it? We can do it.
All I'm saying is your life is in their hands, and I don't want to know that I'm gonna die.
Those hands forget you have plans with those hands, like the day you have plans with those
I've learned
hands.
so much about you that I wish I could never know.
I like to share.
One
Okay,
time
well, hold
we were
on.
at a museum in France, and you were staring at a painting, and you were like, don't you just love how they did feet back then?
Don't
That
start
was
with
the
this.
beginning of learning something I regret.
We had to remind Tyler about this event yesterday. We had to remind him about this event 24
He was like,
hours
I got nothing
ago.
going on tomorrow.
And we were like, are you sure you have nothing going? He goes, no, yeah. I mean, like the other things on that thing's on Saturday. And we're like, are you sure? And you can hear Tyler's mom in the background being like, you need to be a better manager of your time. You need to. But hold on, you had a gay man who was not interested in you hanging from a ledge last time
and
we
his
left.
life was in my hands. And all I'm saying is we ended up passing a like pretty good moment together. He like took a big whipper, right? And we ended up falling, hitting each other face first.
It's like the opposite of a meet cute. It's like a fail and a safety violation.
And so anyway, we had a really good time together, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home because I'm done with him, right? And we're biking home, and he's like, you want to get pizza together? And I was like, sure. And then we got pizza, and I was like, are we just gonna eat in a park? He's like, well, I thought we could eat it back at my place. The third time someone's place has come up, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, but I'm also a little happy. On the inside,
You're like, okay.
I'm like, is this my chance? And so we end up going over to his place. We eat the pizza, and I'm like, I'm gonna be respectful. I'm not gonna do anything, and I will leave, right? And then he goes into his bedroom, and he's like, Tyler, you remember that little like video we were talking about when we were climbing? I pulled it up on my computer, and I was like, so bring it out to the kitchen. And he was like, I think it'd be better if we watched it in here. It was actually Caleb Gallo. Like, dead ass. It was the freckle thing. And so anyway, he's like, come sit in my room with me. And I don't know what my problem was, but he was sitting on the bed and I sat on the floor because I thought that would be the respectful thing to do.
It takes him 7 times, but he will respect the boundary eventually.
And he was like, why are you sitting on the floor? And I was like, it's comfortable.
I
here."
imagine he's also fully naked during this entire conversation. It's
I
like
didn't
all
notice.
candles, and there's like a red scarf over his lamp on the bedside. And he was like, wouldn't you be more
rose
comfortable not on the floor?
No, literally. And so things eventually moved to the bed. And
Sure.
you can know,
My mother listens to this podcast.
Yeah, so
Tyler.
Teresa Thomas.
Being ghosted.
I'm saying, no, Teresa.
It gets really good at the
We got
end.
30 seconds. Teresa Thomas said, I want you to hear that, so we skip over that part. Something happened. I woke up the next morning and I was like feeling pretty good about myself because I'd been like pretty much told no for about 7 months. And I was like, look who got in. And I left it for about a day, right? Then he texted me a day later and he's like, hey, Tyler, can I talk to you about last night? And I was like, yeah. I was like, is everything okay? Is there like a boundary we crossed? Do we need to have a conversation about this, right? He's like, I just think it's kind of gross for friends to sleep with each other, and I think we should tell no one about this.
Oh my god!
There's a lot of gasp in the audience right now. I know it's an audio podcast, but
Visual cues.
Absolutely.
So I was sitting there and I was like, that's fine. I really wasn't planning on telling anyone. And he just like totally deflated my ego and then ghosted me.
At this point, though, the issue with me is that I would have told everyone in our friend group and would have been like, okay, sorry, you can't tell.
well,
him
he
that
spelled
you
his
know.
name and then told it on a podcast.
And now 100,000 people are gonna know.
I do absolutely love that where he was like, hey, shh. And also goodbye.
So that is when I got ghosted.
And Tyler has really good taste in men. In case you were wondering, who was the only person you were interested in Oktoberfest? What sexual orientation was he?
I love this.
What was he
I'm gonna-
again
I'm
after
gonna-
all of the gay men that you flirted with?
I want to make this clear because I'm in a backyard full of my friends that I'm gonna hide the worst parts about what happened
Oh,
at
yeah,
Oktoberfest.
100%.
But at one point Tyler's. Let's use the word flirting really hard with this very clearly straight guy. Imagine a 21-year-old who goes to Clemson and is majoring in finance, but like his dad runs a golf pro shop back home and it's all just kind of so you can have a good 4 years. He's at Oktoberfest and Tyler's like, are you Prince Charming? At one point, a man came up to Tyler who saw Tyler on Grindr and was like, oh, I'm so glad there's other gays here. And Tyler was like, yeah, anyways. And so the straight man who did not want Tyler, didn't want Tyler, but got so drunk that he got separated from all of his friends. And I was like, Tyler, we need to get him back to the train station.
May I?
And you are yelling, leave him. And Tyler, what does all of Munich shout back at you?
Don't leave him.
Don't leave him. And Tyler's like, I'm going to the train station. And I was like, that's fine. Karmaically, I cannot leave this drunk English speaker alone in a foreign country. So I'll meet you back at the Airbnb.
I
gotta make sure he doesn't
ghosted
get
too
Make
much.
sure he doesn't get fucking Gone Girled or what was that horror movie, Hostel? I want to make sure he has 2 kidneys tomorrow, and then I'll be at the Airbnb too. But then of course it's all in German. I didn't know where I was going, and so Tyler was like, "Ah, follow me this way." And then, I think, and we haven't really talked about this. The best part of this entire evening is after I have to convince Tyler not to abandon his scorned love interest. We get to the subway we need to drop him off at before we go to our separate train station, and we all like kind of very respectfully gave you 2 a minute. Like we all stood like 5 or 6 feet away and like talked, and we're like, yeah, I could go over a pretzel. Do you want a pretzel? Yeah, I could use some of the sauce to soak everything up. You guys like had a minute to talk, and then he went down the stairs and you joined us, and it was a beautiful evening.
Like I said, I don't know how to read a room.
Round of applause
Thank
for Tyler,
you.
everybody.
Red Robin. Yum. Excellent.
Oh, but mine was extra. Fuck you.
And we're back with
You
Lee.
made them give you an applause.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Saying you're not extra my ass.
Oh, I just got a lot of booze there too, and I felt like that
All
was
right,
kind
we're
of
welcoming Lee
unwarranted.
back to the podcast now. I've heard enough of Grant.
We were like, Lee's up, and like 3 people were like, I gotta pee. I'm like,
We've already heard him for like 3.5 hours. Jesus.
Hey.
Did you have a story?
Oh yeah.
Hi.
I thought. I mean, other people you said you were gonna introduce them as part of the universe. I didn't know if I.
We've already. You had a 2.5 hour episode.
you are our longest episode. And Lee's like, well, are you gonna introduce me?
Just for the people that didn't know
Do
about me.
you want me to tell them how I met you again?
Not
Yes.
even a little
Okay,
bit.
excellent.
Okay, so Maya reached out like a few weeks back. I was like, oh yeah, like I want you to come to this live show, and I was like, that's gonna be so fun. I've actually listened to every episode now, so like I actually did it. Yeah. Unlike
Changing lives, folks.
Are you like trying to rub it into the rest of the crowd who hasn't listened to it?
No, I just felt like an asshole when you actually had me on. Abby just flipped you off.
Tyler, take notes.
This is an audio podcast. Exactly. Someone's got to say it.
Play it in the background. It's not hard.
Abby, we love you.
Oh, I'm yelling at Tyler. Are we yelling at Abby? I would never yell at Abby.
Tyler, fuck you.
You can tell there was an intermission because we're like, all right, let's get into this fucking podcast.
I went inside and I literally took a shot because I got stage fright. So.
All right.
I could drown, Lee. I was drinking. It doesn't take that much water to do that. Tell your goddamn story.
Isn't it stupid how they put the esophagus in front of the lungs?
I don't know.
Tell your goddamn story.
Okay, so a few weeks back, Maya was like, "Oh yeah, do you have any good ghosting stories?" And I was like, "I can't think of any, but it's just because like I just had trauma and I forgot." So Maya already knows this one. This will be fun for Grant. I was in a relationship, pretty long-term relationship throughout college.
Oh, wait, no, I do know this story.
Yeah. Well, we'll call her Cheryl.
Say Cheryl.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
Spelled the way you think.
P-H-A.
IYLE.
And so Cheryl and I have, we started dating freshman year. We were in a pretty long-term committed relationship throughout all of college. Post-college, Maya knew her as well. And there was Maya and I didn't talk for a few years, and it's because of Cheryl.
Don't worry, Cheryl apologized to me drunkenly several times.
I love that. Also, when Jacob and Lydia first started dating, because I knew them both as friends first, like the whole friend group sat them down and we were like, break up now or agree to get married. Like,
Jacob's like, I already have the ring.
oh, we wish. No, we're all like 19 and a half, 20, and we're in a building that will collapse upon itself at any second. And we're like, promise. They got married. Yay. Anyways, you were in a relationship too with a woman. That sounds awesome.
I know. A foreign thing to Grant.
They're just usually a lot more sensible than men.
This one in particular wasn't. So we'll get into that. Anyway, so yeah, we've been dating for a while at this point, and I mean it's to the point where it's like we're probably going to like continue dating for a while for the foreseeable future. Grant already laughed.
Weird way to say that.
Yeah, sorry. The shot's starting to kick in.
His trauma's coming through.
You'll see. It's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, we're both graduating, and she accepted a job out in Washington, and I was able to work remote. So I was like, I will go out and we'll like move in together and we'll live out in Washington together. It's not cute.
It actually works really well. I've heard about that working really well.
Yeah. Jacob and Lydia did that in case
That's not true. Lydia also got a job in Seattle, completely unrelated, teaching wealthy kids how to ride bikes, which was her passion. She wasn't following Jacob. That's anti-feminist for you to say.
Well, I'm happy to work for someone because
they were in that point of a relationship where they're gonna like keep staying in a relationship. Yeah. You know about that kind of phase.
No, I don't actually.
He thought he did.
I sure thought I did.
Oh no.
Well,
what did you think your story was going to?
I've stopped predicting.
So Grant, we've been dating for 3.5 years. Me and this person. So it's like, yeah. So we moved out to Washington together. I'm living out there. The adjustment's pretty tough on me. I like work remote in a studio apartment, so I just am surrounded by the same 700 square feet every day. And the only view outside the window is a dumpster. So it's like, and I don't have a car because like I hadn't moved anything out there yet because I'd just been out there for a month. But before I even moved out there, I promised my parents they were going on this big trip, and my grandpa needed like a lot of help at this point, and so my mom and my mom's sister, aka my aunt. Pretty cool. They were both going to be out. They were both going to be out of town. My sibling was out of town, and I had promised before I'd moved out to Washington that I would take care of my grandpa. So a month in, I had to go back and like take care of my 93-year-old grandfather.
Best way to get settled is to never really settle.
Yeah, exactly. I had maybe like 6 shirts there and a dream. So lost that there too.
But love is love.
And so I fly back from Washington to Colorado. On the drive there, like I'm saying goodbyes to Cheryl. God, I miss her. Cheryl. That's sarcasm.
No.
and we're saying goodbye, I love you. Like everything seems really strong. It's been like a kind of a bumpy month just because of like all the adjustment. But I was like, okay, well,
Sorry, just the phrase, everything seems pretty strong.
Yeah.
It's like when you start to hear the horror movie music, but they're all just like in a car together still. And you're like, what's about to happen? Like, what's about to happen? You're like, ugh. I'm like, hold on. Things seem pretty strong as you're about to go take care of a 93-year-old elderly person.
what could go wrong? That's called foreshadowing.
I love it.
Yeah. Look up Chekhov's gun if you're looking for something interesting. Anyways, so we go back to I go back to Colorado, and we're you don't know the term Chekhov's gun?
That's
you
not
continue
the
your
story. Maya keeps looking at me to shut up, and I know that I need to.
I realized why our episode was 2 hours and 40 minutes.
My mom thinks it's too long. I want you to know, the only person to not like it, my mom goes, Jesus, get to the story.
That was our fault, Grant. That was our fault. He said we walked into a Lego room and we lost our shit for an hour.
They were just Legos.
Discord still talks about it. So you're
Were we
dying
in
grandfather.
Colorado?
Yes.
Who said he was dying?
I mean, you have to take care of him.
Yeah, I do. He's 93 years
Sorry,
old.
you're thriving grandfather. My bad.
Who needs a lot of help?
Yeah.
Why do we keep having you on the podcast?
I don't know. You invited me to this. This is the consequences of your own actions.
You're like, you were on our podcast,
Yeah.
and that gave the impression that anyone can be on our podcast. And we've had to reject several people because of you.
They're like, that moron made it, anyone can do it.
What the fuck happens with you, Cheryl, and your grandfather?
Yeah.
Anyways, so basically let me explain too. Like, so I'm taking care of my grandfather. He's at an assisted living clinic though, so he's not like in the house with me. So basically, the night before he dies, the people, aka the helpers, what do you call them? Doctors,
AKA and then not an actually helpful thing at all.
They call me and say, hey, he's like not taking his pills tonight. We're like gonna try to like get him into bed, but like just like, do you want us to have him like try to give him the pills, or like what should we do? I was like, why am I telling you how to take care of my grandfather? And I was like, do what you think's right.
Because they're like, do you want us to traumatize and force him, or
Yeah.
are you good?
Are you good? Yeah.
That's what they're asking
Yeah.
you?
And I said,
Oh my god!
yeah, I'm 22. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not like a physician. I don't know. Anyways, so they.
You're not your mom's sister.
Yeah, I'm not my mom's sister. Hands. Anyways, so they call me, and so like I know something's kind of up, but I'm like, I'll deal with this in the morning. That was too late. And so they call me again. It's like, hey, just to let you know, your grandfather stopped breathing last night because he was on the do not resuscitate thing. We didn't resuscitate him, and he died. And he died peacefully. And I was like, okay. And so like, when you like, I mean, obviously everyone like takes in issues in different ways, and like I immediately just went stone faced. I'm like, okay, I've got like a procedure that I have to do. I need to go like figure out this grandparent stuff. Check for first step. Yeah. So I was like, step number one, I need to call my mom because her dad died. So I call her, and I pick it up, and I immediately just hang up and start crying because like that's when the emotions start hitting. I'm like, how am I supposed to do this? So then I kind of like get jazzed up, and I'm like, okay, and I call my dad, and he picks up, and I'm like, hey dad, I'm gonna cry for a second here, and I just need you to know Grandpa's dead. You're gonna talk to me about this for a few moments while I figure this out, and then we're going to talk to mom together. And he was like, all right, I completely understand. We'll get through this. Great parents. I've got really good parents. They never traumatized me, just my grandfather.
The man who died in this story.
Oh, you've heard. So I'm on the phone with dad, but then he puts on speaker, which is an interesting thing to do, but because my aunt's there as well, and then I explain it, and then my aunt just goes, and then my mom goes, quiet, quiet, we knew this was coming, it's okay, and they're like yelling at each other, and then everyone's crying. And then so my mom's like calming down my aunt, and she's like, you've done everything right, like everything's okay. I go to Morningstar, which is the clinic he's at. Promote us if you want. And we're I'm there.
And they want this story to be the narrative they share with family.
Hey, should we give your grandfather that's dying
called a
pills or not?
21-year-old with 6 shirts and a girlfriend who had quietly broken up with him.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, we're still happily together at
This
this
feels like a
point.
story that's theme is lost. So,
so
when you get oh shit. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
so then I go to Morningstar, and I go and I see his corpse. Weird thing to have to do, right? They said if you want to like go say goodbye, like you can, and he's like there peacefully.
Sorry, the nurse who takes care of babies is like shaking her head really hard in the corner, and it's kind of throwing me a little bit. Hayden, control your face.
Well, he's not a baby, so it's different.
Thank you, Lee. That was the thing that our listeners were caught on. So, we all good? We got.
Anyways,
all same page.
How much time we got? Okay.
You're already over.
Yeah, perfect. So I go and see the corpse. Weird thing to do. If anyone's been to a wake, Catholics do it weird. Like you see the body that's been embalmed. Don't like that. And so I go and see him, and then his TV's still on in the other room. And so I just go in and I sit and watch golf because he loves golf. And so I just kind of sit there and I'm like, all right, this is my day. Whatever. So I take care of all that stuff. I like email my boss. He's like, hey, you need to get something out today. And I was like, hey, your grandpa didn't die, mine did. Can you take care of this? And he was like, oh, for sure. So
the thing you're taking care of is that you're watching golf?
What?
He's taking care of his dead grandfather's funeral stuff. Shut the fuck up.
I wasn't sure what was happening.
Oh, I'm just taking a moment because, my grandpa died. I don't know if you heard that.
I missed that.
Yeah, so I'm just taking a moment to deal with that. Anyways, I take care of everything that day and I go home. And, let's bring it back to Cheryl. Who do you call when, like, you're in a time of crisis? Probably your
Lydia.
significant other.
Everyone call Lydia.
Lydia, I
The
should've
number is
called
at the
you.
bottom of our screen now. I'll be here for you.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you. Cheryl wasn't. So I call Cheryl, and I'm like, hey, and she knows my grandpa pretty well. Like my grandpa loved Cheryl, and I'm like, hey, Grandpa fucking died, dude. I said it just like that, and she goes, oh, that's tough. And we have a pretty meaningful conversation then, and she's like, hey, just like call me if you need anything. I'm like, all right, thank you. And then I hang up and like I go be with friends that night, and then I try to like text her the next day, and she doesn't really respond. And then I try to call her, she doesn't pick up, and then I don't hear from her at all on Friday. And then Saturday rolls around, and I try to FaceTime her, and she finally picks up. I'm like, hey, where were you for the last 24 hours? And she was like, oh, I was just busy. I was out at the clubs. And I was like, weird. Crazy. I don't know if you heard that. Crazy thing happened to me. I thought we would have some communication about that. Don't know if that's what you're up to. I'm a pretty passive guy.
My bad for not communicating that need.
Yeah.
I needed you to be there.
Thought it was assumed. You know what I say about assumed?
You know what? My bad.
Yeah,
My bad.
That's totally my bad. And she goes, she's just like, it was just a lot. And I was like, oh, I know it was a lot.
For you?
For me.
It was a lot.
Yeah, it was like, so at this point, I'm kind of confused because I'm like, this has not happened before in our relationship. Like, she has had some pretty tough boundary issues where we've never, through our 3.5-year relationship, not talked for 24 hours. Like, we've always talked every single day, and if I didn't talk to her, she would call me crying. So there's a lot of those issues. Anyways, so like her not talking to me for 24 hours was like a really weird situation that I was not used to. And I'm really confused, and I'm like, hey, and I start crying on the phone. I'm like, I'm not doing well, if you couldn't see. And she was like, I think we should take a week to just gather ourselves
on that phone call.
On that phone call. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
I know.
And I said,
also, like, she doesn't have to go to dinner with you. She's like across the country.
Yeah.
She just has to answer your phone calls.
I know. Yeah. Right? I know, crazy.
Yikes.
Woo! Getting spicy. And so we take the week because I respect boundaries.
you're like, yeah, no, sure, no problem.
He's like, as a well-adjusted person who dates others,
And so like after I was done taking care of my grandpa, which got expedited, I was supposed to go out to LA to surprise my friend for his birthday. So that trip was already en route. So she was like, go see your friend in LA. We'll like chat like in a week from now, and like let's just clear our heads. And I was like, okay. So then a week goes by.
From what?
From clear.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
absolutely.
I am really like.
Go ahead.
Did you understand you had been broken up with at this point, or is it just a weird thing that's happening?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Here's the thing. If she just if she had just wanted to take a week and then get back together, I was done. There's the way that she acted in that situation, I felt incredibly disrespected.
Yeah.
And was absolutely baffled that she would act this way to me. And I mean, we've had our ups and downs, but for most of our relationship, we were really solid. So I was like, I don't know. Maya's shaking her head. That could be another Patreon story.
There's a couple people who are like, they weren't solid. I don't know why he thought they were solid.
I said there were downs. I said that.
Okay, so what happens in LA?
It's so fun. I'm out there, and over this week, I'm mentally preparing to have this phone call. On
to get your
Tuesday.
6 shirts and get out.
To know that
Pack up my single backpack.
I'm ready to I'm emotionally preparing for the official breakup and stuff. And then I'm not gonna reach out to her. I'm you wanted to not talk, you can text me when you're ready. Whatever. And so then she texts me on Thursday, hey, are you free to talk? And I'm yeah. And so we talk for an hour. We both cry. She's like, I just don't know if I'll ever find someone like you. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you saying? You literally just broke up with me when my grandpa died.
Right.
So, Cheryl, you're not making much sense.
It's like a fatal pillar of our relationship.
Yeah. It's all right, dude. And so we officially break up, and we've been together for 3.5 years. The last time I saw her, I got on an airplane, we hugged, kissed, and I said I love you, and I'd never seen her in person since. We had one more phone call to figure out to get my 6 shirts back. And the phone call ended with me saying, just make sure you know you're paying for the shipping.
Don't call collect. I'm not going to accept it.
Please do not bend over, customer. You're paying to ship my stuff out here. And
that's actually really healthy communication.
Yeah.
The number of men I wish were like, hey, you are going to pay for this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm a great communicator. Anyways, so,
3.5 hours.
Sorry, I had to go through a whole arc.
Did you know my grandpa died?
Yeah, how is that both the saddest thing we're going to hear tonight and also the funniest laugh?
That's what I bring to the table. And then, my stuff gets shipped back. I feel different.
Yeah.
I'll never talk to her again. I think I texted her 6 months later on her birthday, said, hey, happy birthday. She texted me saying happy birthday to me. Which was interesting because she had started dating someone 2 months later, so I don't know why she was still talking to me. Or wish me a happy birthday. I didn't care at that point. I found out that actually Maya told me that she was dating someone. I got rid of social media at this point, and I bumped into Maya at.
God, I'm such a bitch.
I have not seen Maya for 2 years because of Cheryl, and I see her at the climbing gym with Tyler.
What?
Yeah, I know. You were climbing. You're hitting on.
You were busy hitting on another straight man.
Oh, he was straight. That's so.
This is my favorite part. Is just how long will Lee talk before he hits a period. So Cheryl, she was climbing next to this gay guy that I know, who was talking to the straight guy that I know.
I use a lot of comments.
You were doing the buddy climb.
Yeah.
What's his name?
My name's Lee.
And he's been a great storyteller, folks. Let's give it up.
Next is Abby, folks.
As our friend Abby comes up, so I do want you guys to know, and I think she's going to be slightly embarrassed when I tell her this. So in a crisis, you really do want to call Lydia. Lydia, 1, unshakable in a crisis, and 2, I kind of love that she's not even listening to this.
She's not.
I'm going to lower my voice to just the kids who care. My mom was in the hospital last week, and Lydia very casually was like, oh my gosh, what hospital is she in? And she sent my mom flowers, and I didn't know until the next day when my mom texted Lydia and I, and she goes, these flowers are gorgeous. So you really do want to call Lydia in a crisis.
I love Lydia.
And I don't think that brought down the mood too much, which is really crucial. We can cut it.
All right. Tell us how you're a part of my little universe.
I am Maya's trainer.
And what's your name? I don't know if you got it on mic yet.
My name's Abby.
She is the person that's been coaching Maya for the war they are not telling us about.
Yes. We're not going to tell you what we're training for, but we are ready for it.
I'm not. Abby was she was training me the other day, or yesterday, and she was like, I got this new like Aura ring, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I was like, how's it different from an Apple Watch? She's like, oh, it'll tell you like when you need rest, which honestly, like I'll probably look at and then push myself really hard anyway. I was like, okay, so $300 down the drain. Got it.
You can't tell me what to do.
Although, if it makes you feel better, I do believe they are ready for whatever's coming. I just also know that whatever's coming, they don't need to start 2 weeks in advance. They just need to be able to start it like the night before.
Also, apparently we're sisters, according to everyone who meets us.
Yeah?
And you have, I think, when we were doing this event and we were talking about ghosted stories, Maya was like, we're going to have to work really hard, but Abby has a story that she needs to share. And so I am, with only really that as a preface, so excited to hear what it is you're about to share with us.
Introduce yourself one more time. I'm not sure if we got it on mic.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Abby.
Woo, Abby!
Excellent.
You want like it all? Like,
No, it's fine. I don't know what we missed. But
There's a couple moments in the pod, you don't know because Maya's really good at editing, where we'll just like fully rerun a paragraph sometimes.
at the beginning, when we were just getting into the groove of things, sometimes we would fully lean back and start gossiping about some people in our lives.
And then I'd be like, what's the, okay, hold on. Founded in 1914.
Planned Parenthood.
Sometimes we forget to do it, and that's when you hear that. Dun, 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 dun. We're better.
right.
We're pros. You have a story.
I do.
Did your grandpa die in it?
Let's preface it.
I don't know
No
the
deaths.
Keeping Lee's story, and if we aren't, I don't want any context for that at all. I can't wait to hear it.
Okay, so when I'm training Maya and Maddie, I spill everything to them. So that's where they got these stories, because I am a gabber. This was several months ago now, but I met this guy at a bar. And he was gorgeous. He was this Brazilian, like, jiu-jitsu fighter, like, tall, dark, handsome. There was like chemistry there immediately. And so we had started like hanging out. It was like one of those moments, like locked eyes across the room. I was like, oh, this is lovely.
We've seen Bridgerton. We get it. There's like an acoustic version of Taylor Swift songs playing in the background. I love all the girlies who just outed themselves. There's like 4 confused men and 20 lovely women in this backyard right now.
Yeah, so it's just like that, but it was like get low instead. So
Romance isn't dead.
So very romantic, clearly. So yeah, we started like seeing each other for a bit, and it was new, it was exciting. You know how it goes. He brought me to his friends. Maybe a little too soon. That probably should have been like red flag, kind of whatever. But I met his friends. I like was back to his place. It was great, and I was like telling them about it. I was like, I don't know, I like him, but like I'm kind of scared. Like the vibes, I don't know. And they were like, no, like this seems great. Fast forward to. Oh,
we got the green light from all your friends. They were like, let go of your trust issues.
Yeah, that was both our bads, Maddie. We were like, you can do it.
It's like he's like, Abby's one of those zoo creatures when she experiences grass for the first time. Like, look at her frolic. She doesn't know there's predators out there. Right? I'm looking for a couple of visual cues. Yeah, I was right. Like you see that scene when you're like, oh, an orchid's gonna eat you, babes. But swim it up while you got it.
oh my god!
I'm both excited and really sad about the look Abby just gave me.
No, that's so true though, especially because I was like, withholding that trust, but then everybody was encouraging me to like give it. They opened the crate. They were like, be free. It's like, no, there are lions out there. So anyway, things were going great. He texted me and he was like, oh, I got you something. I'm like, bought me something? I don't know you that well. And
Trust issues.
I get it. You're like, I gave you my time. I couldn't give you anything more valuable. I don't know whatever this is. But don't want it.
Don't want it. Take it back. So then I didn't hear from him for a week. Nothing. And like it was random because
Wait, does he go, I got you something, what is it, a week later?
No, so yeah, timeline messed that up. Basically, he said it to me in person.
Okay.
He was like, "Oh, I ordered you something. It should be coming on Tuesday." And I'm like,
Adameve.com, we are willing to be sponsored. I want you to know that. Also, audio
Pan to
visual
camera.
version. If we can get that SpongeBob credit scene where it's like 1 week later.
literally. And so then that night, nothing from there. Like just a week. And so I just texted him. I had left my sunglasses there, and like I wanted them back. They were expensive. And so I was like, listen, like, no worries if we're not feeling this anymore. Can I get my sunglasses back? And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. Your gift came. I want to give you your gift. And so I'm like, okay, this feels weird, but all right. And so then we meet up, and it was fine. And that's when I got to tell him, like, hey, when people go a long time without talking to me, it triggers the fact that I dated someone for a year and they ghosted me. Like, we got in a fight, and then they just never texted me again, and we never talked again. And so I was like, hey,
That's not even the story she's telling us right now.
What?
yeah, don't date someone younger than you.
Oh, God. Listen,
no.
as someone who's still trying to learn that lesson. I also want to point out, I've also done the thing where it's like, well, your sunglasses are in my car, so like, do you want them or are they mine? And then I did make out with him that day.
Yeah, that's fair.
Don't look at me, Maya.
Me and Lydia are sharing a moment.
I actually made Jacob keep it from Lydia for like 3 months. But this isn't my story right now.
But yeah, a little background on that one. Like, I'd met his family. I went to Easter with him. Like, that one was serious. And so...
A year in? Yeah, I think so. Do you get power of attorney at that point? Happy people, let us know. Do you get power of attorney at a year in? Or how long do you have to go? Good.
Damn.
All right, well, that's good to know. Lydia, it's still your title.
Pull the plug, Lydia. Pull the plug.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
You're on your date with this guy.
Oh, yeah. So I like to communicate. I also think I'm a good communicator. Let's go!
I've never met someone who's like, I'm actually really bad at communicating. You should know that about me. No one has ever been the other version of this. For sure, but like you only say that now that Casey's around.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I did communicate that because I was also, feeling a little optimistic. My gazelle running through the fields, whatever. So then he was like, "Oh, that sucks. Like, you're talking to the wrong guys. Like, no, that's bad." And that was the last time I had heard from him.
He was like, I see you, I hear you, your trauma's valid. Also, that's a really good idea.
I think I inspired him actually. He was like, you know what? That's my option.
I'm sorry to ask this question.
Yeah.
What was the gift? Listen, because we've all been there.
Was it worth it?
Listen, I once made out with a man in his car in my driveway, and as he pulled away, he was like, I want you to know that you are a really special person, and I can't wait to be in a relationship. I can feel myself getting there with you, and I think this is really cool. And then I do, this is so embarrassing. I did that thing where then you go inside and you close the door and you put yourself up against the door.
Oh my God.
And you're last time I ever heard from him ever. I found out he wasn't dead when I saw him at a club. So what was the gift? Because I would love to have gotten something from him in exchange for whatever the fuck that was. I texted him Happy Thanksgiving 4 months later, and he responded on Christmas Eve, and he misspelled Thanksgiving. So I want to know what the monetary value is of what he... It was Christmas Eve! It was the next holiday! What did he get you?
So, little backstory. He, again, I love backstories. He played, a lot of instruments, and so I bought a bass guitar because I was like, this is how we're gonna bond.
The way that I found out about this was screaming to each other over blaringly loud music at F45. She was like, I bought a bass guitar! I was like, why?
Did I give you bass vibes?
That was it. That was all I got.
Anyways, here's Wonderwall. So you bought a guitar, not for him, but so you could learn together.
Yes. And he taught me the Barracuda bass line by heart. The bass line?
Yeah.
You want me to sing that? Dun, 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 dun.
We got it, Daniel, right? We got it. We got it. Daniel's a videographer and a former student.
So the gift was a Heart t-shirt, like the band Heart, because that was the
From the song.
he taught me on the bass guitar. That's what the gift was.
We
Is
know
there a
that
band called Heart and they're the ones that play Barracuda? Guitar Hero did not teach me that in middle school.
That's like, what are heartfelt gifts?
I'm looking at all the gay people in the audience. I'm like, do we know this one? I don't know. Do they play it before Whitney Houston?
Yeah.
So he got you a t-shirt?
Yep.
And he was like, also, bye.
Keep the t-shirt. It looks good on you.
Well,
See ya.
you're here now, and you have a very cute little boyfriend now, so it all worked out.
He looks great in emerald, which is a
Yeah.
really hard color to pull off for straight men.
Yeah.
See, Grant gives me a lot of shit for not remembering the slew of men that he's going through right now. But he calls Abby's.
I would deny it if I could.
He calls Abby's like boyfriend, right? Officially,
Yeah, he's my boyfriend.
Emerald sweater.
So what you're trying to say is that you were the first person on this stage tonight who is moved on. Give it up for Abby.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do we have time for one more? Two more? I know my
do
friend
two more.
Ashley has a story. Do we have a second person?
Let's do Ashley and
Danny. Oh, and Lottie?
Danny, I swear to God. If it's about
Jess has a really short one.
Tyler, no one would ever admit to dating you. You need to calm down. Did we get it? No. Okay, not to teach her it, but let's go Danny, Lottie, Ashley, and then we can...
Jess has a short one.
Jess has a short one, too. All right, so Danny, Lottie, Jess, and then
Danny, you have 5
Ashley.
minutes
All
before I
right.
kick you off the stage.
Give it up for Danny.
Grant and I also have stories, so
Oh, I just keep cutting whole paragraphs into my brain from my
I
stories.
don't even know what to cut from mine.
We need to make sure we tell a ghost story during this entire series.
I mean, Lee's episode was like 3 hours.
That's
long,
true.
so
Lee
we're not
also
really
kind of does
over yet.
feature ghosts, so that's kind of nice.
All right, you have 5 minutes, Danny, and I'm not afraid to kick you off
Do
the
we need
stage.
to check the recording? Are we still getting audio?
It's fine. I keep checking it periodically,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Okay, so first, Danny, do you want to do a little introduction to yourself? We've said a lot about you on this podcast. Some of it good. But is there anything you want to, and you have like 2 sentences, that you want to clarify before we get into your story tonight?
I think I just want to clarify that.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't know where it's going, but I know I don't like it.
Thank you for the opportunity. I do have some things I'd like to
I've known
correct.
Grant for about, what, 6 years now?
I think
or
so,
something?
yes.
Yeah, and so I just sort of like shadow claim credit for the podcast in the way Casey or Tyler do, because
Absolutely.
that's the way that you all met.
Danny
we
and I
all
have
got
never
together.
dated, which is why he's my oldest gay friend.
All right, so I wasn't sure I was gonna share something tonight, but when Haiden kicked us off, when she said, "Oh, everyone, there've been a lot of situations where it's like I guess I've been ghosted, but it just didn't hurt."
I don't know. I have more respect than that, but I guess someone
so
has
I
decided
just
they
don't
never
know.
talk to me
But when I
again.
decided I really wanted to share a story was when Casey came up here and shared a story about someone in the audience. So I
Oh.
think it is a great time to
Yes.
tell about
Yes.
a story I've never told before. About the time Tyler ghosted me.
All the time in the world.
Can we
You
raise
can
a
take
glass?
3 hours.
Hold on, can I share my POV at the very start of this? This is actually such an important story to share. Where's my camera? Are we at camera 2? This is such an important story to share because I know Maia because Maia knows Tyler, and I know Tyler because of the story Danny's about to share. And Dan and I have been friends forever, and so if it wasn't for the story you are about to hear, none of this exists. And I do wonder what kind of Pandora's box got opened on these dates between the two of you. But I'm grateful.
Oh, I know.
So if we could get silence in the room, please. Danny, believe me, the floor is yours.
We are listening with apt attention.
All right, so Grant likes to talk about me on the podcast and my knowledge of dates in specific days of the week.
He has a
so
memory
I
so
don't, I
good.
don't remember the day of the week.
Okay.
But it was October of 2019. And
and I match Tyler on Hinge of all places.
Oh, you both believe your relationship material. That's so sweet. You think you're emotionally available and ready to meet others. That's so kind to yourselves.
And so at this time, I'm working in person because it's pre-COVID. In Golden, and he is in Golden at School of Mines, and so it makes sense to go to a bar afterwards.
So Danny's in his career, and Tyler's in his college.
I was still an intern then. I wasn't an employee until
What year
the
did
next
you say?
month, 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we go to a place called Barrels and Bottles, I believe.
Nice.
And, so I show up, and, you do that weird thing, because you don't really know exactly if they're going to look like their pictures.
Oh,
so you kind of sit at the table. I don't know. I've never been here before. I don't know how to, order. So I'm kind of, just waiting. And I text him, like, hey, I just got here. And then, all of a sudden, he shows up coming from the direction of the tap house, the kitchen or something, and I'm like, does he work here? I'm trying to understand what's going on.
He doesn't come to the front door. He comes to
does not come through the
kitchen
front door.
double doors. They swing behind him. Good. A cloud of steam and some gumption.
So I'm not trying to make anything awkward. I just met him, so I'm just like, okay, should we get a beer?
I love that Danny's like, I'd totally date someone working class, not a disqualifier.
All right, so this is when we learn Tyler's into IPAs. And IPAs aren't the greatest, but
They're not.
They're awful.
Yeah, thank you, Graham.
Yes.
And I just get I get an ale or an amber or something. And so we talk. It's December. He had just had October. He just had some type of summer internship at the state capitol. So he is all wanting to talk politics. And of course it's the Democratic primary, which I was probably debating with Grant the night before on his back porch.
It is the foundation of our friendship. Well, I just think political principles aren't supposed to move, and Danny disagrees. So.
Yeah, so anyways, and then of course we talk about biking, because Tyler's biking is sort of his life at that point. It's not also CrossFit. He talks a lot about CrossFit, and I've never been to CrossFit, so I have nothing to say. I'm just okay, cool. Knock yourself out, right? And so I feel that, it's going well. It's been 45 minutes.
He's clearly trying to impress you, which is so endearing.
I don't know that he is, because he talks to me about all this.
He talks to me about that too.
Yeah.
That actually super true.
Either he's trying to impress everyone, or...
Raise your hand if you've been on a date with Tyler. Let's just source the crowd.
We got someone in the audience.
It is all the men we suspect.
Here's a fun little
Jacob.
tidbit about Tyler is that we used to have little dinner dates a lot in college, and he would come over to my house, or he would always come over to my house because his house at the time had carpet in the kitchen, and that was weird. or rats. But every time, I think he did this to me 4 or 5 times, where he would always kind of control the meal, which was fine because I'm not good at cooking, but he would have an onion and he would just look me dead in the face and take a bite out of the onion like an apple and just look at me while he chewed it. And I was the first time I was I'm sorry, what the fuck did you just do? The second, third, and fourth time, I was you've done that to me already, right? And he's I like doing it to my dates to see how they react. And I'm
Don't
okay.
impress me much. Singing podcast. Well, Tyler lived with me a year and a half ago, and I'd come home from working a full job educating America's youth. And I'd be like, hey, how's it going? Then he would cry, and I'd be like, oh, sorry, Tyler's going through a breakup. And I'd be oh, and then as soon as he'd be like, okay, I think I'm good. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna go snowboard for the next 3 days, so I left some moldy bagels on the counter. Thanks for letting me stay here. And then I wouldn't see him again for a while. And you were like, okay, this guy's pretty interesting.
He's trying to impress me.
We're only 45 minutes in.
I know, and we've said a bunch of embarrassing things about Tyler, but the transitive property absolutely applies to Danny, because he's like, yeah, let's go bike.
The granola gaze. I've said it once, I'll say it again.
Tyler today was like, I don't know if I can date this guy. He takes a hot shower every day.
People use their water heaters.
Oh, sorry. This
You
4
had a
years
story.
ago.
4 years ago.
You have 4 minutes.
So we finished the first beer. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going well. We'll probably get a second round. So I say, do you want a second round? And he's like, I have like to go get a haircut or something. It was some excuse like this.
Tyler, was it because he was interested in you?
Was it because he was gay? Listen, if you wanted to learn how to communicate, I think we have at least 2 of them right behind you.
Right there.
Communicators.
Good communicators. And so I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I'm not one to force someone to keep a date.
Yes, that's actually true. You have a lot of self-respect, which is so insane.
So, and then all of a sudden, like, he disappears back into the kitchen again.
You left through the kitchen?
And he's gone.
Tyler!
Like, I'm
Shocking
assuming
no
the best
one,
at this
but
point. I
amazing.
figured maybe he has friends who work here, you know? Like, I feel like it's a brewery in town 3 blocks from the mines campus. Like, maybe he has
He
friends
had to
who
get
work
a haircut in the kitchen?
Kindest, most gentlest person on the stage.
And he disappeared into the
Yeah,
woodworks.
so he disappeared. And then, so I was gonna be like, okay, like, let's give it, like, 2 days. Then we'll, like, text him back on Hinge and see what happens. So I did, and of course, like, I don't remember what we talked about. I'm not gonna pretend to know.
Sure.
But it was very like, oh yeah, we should go on a bike ride. It was something like that. And then of course, there was like the 2-day wait for his like reply, and then I would reply. And then,
true.
And then there was like the 4-day wait. And
Tyler,
then-
are you
and
going
then
to be
there
at the
was,
train station
like-
or not? I need to know. I'm on the train.
And then the 4-day delay became like 6 days, and I'm like, at what point do you just like stop?
Sure.
You know? Because
No, when it becomes a year.
it was like, you know, like.
If Casey's talking, never. You never stop. You never.
Well, my options are open.
And like he was like personable enough, right? You know, like he was interesting, but like he wasn't that spectacular that I really had to chase him.
We love that for you. Good job.
Again, the most self-respect on this stage.
Wasn't worth chasing. Put that on your Hinge. Wasn't worth chasing.
What's so fun is you can actually insert audio clips into your Hinge profile now. We'll get you the
Well,
file.
we have the audio.
Oh, we should get you the file. Hey, hold on.
you're
But
right.
like, obviously, you do then eventually. He does
Yeah,
respond.
well, okay, wait, no, we have to. So now it's like November because after 6-day waiting periods, October turns into November pretty quickly, and then it's winter, Christmas happens, all that.
Right.
I don't hear from Tyler. I don't reach out to Tyler. Nothing happens. And then, of course, we all know what happens in March. COVID hits.
Right.
And Tyler gets real lonely real fast.
That was my next line. Thank you, Maya. So I decide, because I realized I wasn't going to be able to hang out with any of my friends for the foreseeable future,
Right.
to make a dash to Wisconsin where I could hang out with family in our like family house there where we always spend Thanksgiving and Christmas. Because what else, you know, it's like, what else was there
Yeah.
to do in Denver? I don't have to be at work. I wasn't going to see anybody. Like, it was just going to be boring and lonely. Well, that's about the time Tyler just like reappears and is like, hey,
Much like
how's
herpes.
COVID going for you?
It is. It's a flare-up disease. It's not a constant kind of thing, but it lives in you forever. That can't be the most shocking thing I've said tonight. Lee's grandpa died up here.
Like several times, actually.
Okay, so the rash that is Tyler reemerges while you're in
And
Wisconsin.
TLDR, now we have a podcast.
And so, of course, I say, you know, I'm probably gone from Colorado for a month, but, you know, we can, like, FaceTime or something like that.
Elusive and not urgent.
Yeah, exactly. And so I remember at that point I'm in Chicago at our family house, and I'm, like, in, like, the basement or something, and I'm, like, FaceTiming Tyler, and we're talking more about biking, and we're talking more about, by that point, Biden was the nominee.
Sure,
so there was no more
absolutely.
politics to discuss. But, we make, again, like, vague plans of, like, going on a bike ride when
Right.
I, like, wander my way back to Colorado in the end of April. And so we do. When he actually, like, follows through, he, like, comes to my apartment. He's like, I used to know the lesbians lived across the street from here. My ex also lived on
Yeah,
the corner
that's
right
what
there.
it is. The ex.
That's absolutely
Call
it.
it.
No. That's good. We'll have to cut that. That's really good to move now.
And I get this feeling just because like he has like clothing, apparel, and things that it's like in another life he really wishes he could have like come to DU like his ex did, and and like the lesbians did.
He still has that shirt.
He still wishes he went to DU. So I think visiting me by DU was just kind of like a very important moment.
I love that we pulled up to the end of the story, which just features Tyler's regular communication style, which is just to disappear forever.
Sometimes to Europe, sometimes in Colorado.
I show up to that party, and I know exactly what date it is, and you all will too, because I pull up to the backyard, and I go, oh man, isn't it crazy Ruth Bader Ginsburg died? And every person goes, what? What do you mean Ruth Bader Ginsburg died? And I was like, oh, yikes.
All right.
And essentially that's the story.
And
because
that's Danny.
kept bike riding all summer. And the day Ruth Bader Ginsburg died is the day Grant and Tyler met for the first time.
Correct, and that
at
would
my
have
birthday
been
party.
normally where you parted, but I was keeping a close circle of friends, and I needed to go to
Yes.
West Texas here soon.
Yeah, exactly.
We love it.
Next
All
story.
right.
We appreciate Danny. We love him. Thank you, Danny. Lottie.
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 Hello.
Hello. I love that people have started to consistently bring up their own blankets.
I can see my breath. So,
Here's the
yeah.
thing. I am like, gotta be funny, but also Maya has told me several times to shut the fuck up.
I keep looking at him like,
papa, papa.
all right, I'm putting the timer on, not because I don't love you, but because it is 9:30 at night.
So fair.
Their neighbors are super cool. He has a sleeve
I'm
on
not
his
worried
leg.
about their sleep schedule.
Worried about my back because of my
I'm
slug
worried
mode.
about me and Daniel's editing.
We have a budget. We'll talk, Daniel. We appreciate you.
You've never been considerate with my time.
I mean, do you want to talk about it now in front of all of our friends? We have 4 different
Lottie!
cameras
I'd
up.
just
like to say my timer is running while
We'll start it over. Grant ruined it.
That's
you
fair.
have
you.
That's fair.
7 minutes.
I liked you
How
before
were
this.
you in?
How am I in the universe?
Yes.
So I went to high school with Maia. We were in choir together for many years.
I met Lottie before I met Lee.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's also played a small but integral part in a couple of my breakups.
I actually met you during one of those. Are we about to talk about that?
No, we are not.
No,
But
that wasn't a ghosting.
I think about that.
I met Lottie in what you could only call a grief in residence
It was
program at Maya's
it
house.
was the day after me and my first long-term serious girlfriend broke up.
I remember looking at you too and being like, well, the most important love in your life is always going to be your love with yourself, and so you got to work through that. And you were like, thank you so much. And you disappeared like a candelabra into the house, and I was like, I think I should have been a lot more chalant there.
No, do you remember what you actually did?
No.
You talked about how stalking people on Venmo is the most amazing way to find out information. I turned
learned
my
some
head.
information I did not want to know after you told me
If you
that.
want to hurt your own feelings, look up your ex's current
Don't do
Venmo
that.
history, and
Don't
you can
do
find
it.
out who they're dating, and a lot more hurtful, that they are dating, and
Grant-
it's gonna ruin your day.
Grant said this to Lottie, who had just gotten out of a several-year relationship that she had lived with, and I turn my head about 20 degrees and see her phone light turn on, and I go, oh, fuck.
Like I said, kind of grief in residence.
And Grant's a dumbass.
It is good to know.
And
It
I
is good
was
to
committed
know.
that night. Yeah, I remember talking about you to Maya after that, and she said, you know what Grant said about you? He said, I love Lottie, and it is because I, too, have never gotten over anything in my entire life. I was like, dude, it was literally
That's really true.
Let me grieve.
I love Lottie because she's sad right now about a thing that I'm also equally sad about that happened a year and a half ago.
Yep.
We're
Yeah.
the same.
And that's hip hop.
And that's what makes it queer.
Oh my god.
Okay, you have a story.
I have a story, yes. So my story is gonna be a blast from the past, actually. This was after my breakup from my first queer relationship, like, ever. So equally but differently traumatizing. I was about 20 years old, you know, heartbroken, very lonely. I was like, I'm gonna die alone. I just need to find someone immediately. I don't care who it is. So I went on Tinder, like you do. And I matched with this person. We're gonna call her Rachel because that's her name.
And you have not forgiven her.
No, honestly.
We're going to call her Rachel Bellingstock.
We can call her whatever. It doesn't matter.
417 Ames Street.
5'5", brown hair, last seen.
Okay. But this person, before we even met, there were red flags. I remember like talking with her on the phone, and she asked me how tall I was, and I was like 5'7". How tall are you? And she was like 5'8", and I just hear hysterical laughter in the background. So yeah, and I was like,
this
I
is
mean,
such a safe environment. That reaction reminded me I'm in a safe place.
but I was like, whatever, you're a human person, like, let's meet up.
Sorry,
She was-
yeah, this isn't a funny part of the story. It's just like 6 of our friends Scooby-Doo walked behind you, trying not to cause a disturbance. I hope someone got some Scooby snacks that are like ready to go.
By not causing a disturbance, they also caused a
If they had
disturbance.
just been normal, we would have continued. But you're like, she was nice, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I'll bet she was nice.
Okay. No, she wasn't.
Does she die in the story?
No. She does not. Okay, also I gotta say, because that's another blast from the past. My high school boyfriend broke up with me the day after my grandmother's funeral and the day before my high school graduation. And listening to Lee's story earlier, I was just like, thank God I'm gay, because that would have sucked so bad for me.
Was that the last man you ever dated?
No, second to last.
I get it. They're hard to quit.
You know, gotta make some mistakes twice.
I slept with him later, so.
Yes, that was the
Me
other.
or her ex?
No, my ex. That
So
was the
many
other
men in
integral
this
part
pool
she
right now.
played in my other breakup. Anyway, so yeah, I decided to meet up with this girl because I'm like, whatever, you're somebody. I don't care.
Potentially 5'8".
And think that's funny.
Probably 5. I don't know. It doesn't matter. She was catfish, and we had absolutely nothing in common. I was 20 years old. She was like 24. She had a 4-year-old child. Whoa. She was.
But it's not all good.
She was a United States Marine, which, like, you know, we love the troops, whatever. But I wouldn't consider myself like particularly patriotic. And she was like, she once saw like a wrinkly American flag on somebody's like patio and just had a conniption. She was.
Did she live in Colorado Springs?
No, but she did live in Aurora.
Oh, in a strange way. Makes more sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she
She
was
lives in
a
Aurora?
Marine. She lived in Aurora. She had a kid. We had nothing in common. We didn't really like even get along on any level. We weren't compatible. I really didn't enjoy her company, but I was like, I guess I'll just keep going over here. And she would do this thing. She was actually awful. She would do this thing where she would go like out. She was a bouncer at like clubs. And
And she would go out while I was visiting there for like the weekend because I lived in Fort Collins. I was like, I'm not
clubs in
gonna.
Aurora?
I don't know. But she would just go out while I was like over at her house visiting her to.
Wait, so you'd be at her house and she'd be like, I'll see you later.
Yes,
and
and would just leave me alone with her 4-year-old child, who I babysat for free because it was better than being alone and it was better than hanging out with her.
Are you Lydia, and is that child a bakery?
God, I wish.
There's this SNL skit, and it's called Red Flag Perfume, and it's Kristen Wiig, and she's this elegant character, and she's like, she's stylish. She knows the right thing to say always. And her ex-boyfriend's a club promoter. And then it goes like, red flag. She's rich. She's interesting. And one of her pinky nails is like way too long. And all her friends are dudes.
All right,
you're just
we're continuing the story.
Drenched in red flags, and you're like, I love it here.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it went on long enough too that I actually kind of developed a bond with her daughter, and I was like, shit, I don't like you at all, but I can't like break up with you now. Like I'm like
She's a mother.
With your kid. Like,
She's a mother.
I would miss her. I'm a mom now.
I love how your first gay relationship, you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was like, this is just what it's like.
Oh my God, Lottie.
And I have not been completely proven wrong. But anyway, I probably saw her for like 4 or 5 months, and it ended when I was driving to my friend's house and I got T-boned. I got in a huge car accident, and I texted her and I was like, hey, I got in a car accident. And she didn't respond to me for like 4 days. And so I finally texted her and I was like, hey, I don't think we should see each other anymore. And she was like, yeah, I don't either. And that was the last I ever heard from her. Communication.
Holy shit!
Listen, even if she had only employed you as a babysitter, you need to respond to the I was T-boned text message.
I know, literally, I was like, I could have died. Like, it was a bad accident.
I want you to know, seriously considered at one point having a projector screen to like show visual cues. I just kind of right now wish we had captured everyone's last text message to the person they relied on for emotional support. Because to be able to see your text message and then be able to see the, yeah, I also don't think we should see each other 4 days later. Priceless.
No, she responded to that text very quickly.
Oh, the out. She was like, thank you.
Yeah. Yep. So that's my story. That's what happened.
And
Lottie!
All right. Thank you, Lottie.
This is Jess. How are you a part of our little circle?
I'm a part of the circle by brushing Maia's hair. Sometimes.
And you can too on Patreon.
Yes.
No.
Small payment.
Do you think
Of $100.
brushing Maya's hair or polishing Grant's head? Which one should be more?
Polishing Grant's head.
I 100%
Absolutely.
agree. It's not shoe polish. It's not what you got to use. But you're here. And we love
I'm here,
that.
guys. I'm here.
Yeah.
Here I am.
You've been ghosted or done some ghosting.
So, I have 2 stories. One story is about when someone ghosted me, quite literally, and I was not offended. I laughed instead.
As we all wish we could do.
Yes, I was quite impressed. And then the second story is about, I guess I kind of ghosted this guy. It's an interesting MLM-related story. So
Men loving men?
yes.
Multi-level marketing.
It's the same acronym,
It
Maya.
could, you guys, it could be both. It could be both in this situation. We don't
Every
know.
time I tell a story, Maya ridicules me for 1, providing like a roadmap, and 2, for then immediately providing a
You're not my
works
hairstylist,
So thank you, Jess. We appreciate
You
it.
didn't make my hair look like this.
Yes.
Back off.
I didn't
Oh, did I
either,
not
to
bring
be
any
fair.
hair products here at Maya?
She did
or
a
did I
great
not need to
job.
put any hair products in my suitcase?
I will pull the cord on your mouth right now.
I think the
swear to
cord
God.
poured the cord on itself.
I know. The cord is about to like eject into the sky. Okay, go on.
Okay, so the first story was when I just first started getting on like Bumble and Tinder and everything. I matched with this guy and yeah, it's gonna be
I don't know how you can suck out all of the air in an outdoor venue, but there's not a lot of air.
So I go on this date with this guy. We're having fun. It's like it lasts like an hour. We both have stuff to do afterwards. Not like too much commitment. And we just get pizza. We're hanging out. Everything's going well. So a couple days later, well, actually at the end of the date, he's like, "This was really fun. I'd like to do this again." And I'm like, "Okay, like I don't know if I see a romantic connection, but this could be like a fun friendship thing. So let's like
Communicators
pursue it to an
in the audience, absolutely.
And/or Tyler.
Flipping people.
Yeah.
She disappeared into the kitchen. Yeah, we get you.
So, a couple days goes by and I don't hear from him. I'm like, okay, this is a little weird, but like, you know, maybe he just needs some time. Maybe he's playing the like 3-day game. So I texted him, don't hear anything from him. And I'm like, okay, if you're just gonna ghost me, like, just tell me you're ghosting me. It's not a big deal. I'm fine with it. And he sends me a literal picture of like a Scooby-Doo ghost. Yeah! And I couldn't be upset because I was like, well, goddamn! All right. Like,
I have an answer.
all right, yeah. But we're gonna out him a little bit too because son of a bitch had a girlfriend too. Oh. So Ryan.
Baby's ready?
I love that we know his communication is good because there's a girlfriend working on him right now.
You get your ass over. She's grabbing my
Yeah. You text her back right now.
You motherfucker. Son of a bitch.
I love that. No, I really
so
do.
that's my like short and sweet one. And I thought about this one earlier too when somebody else was sharing a story. So I got conned into like an MLM on accident.
As we found out 10 seconds ago, what kind of MLM are you talking about?
Multi-level marketing.
I'm sorry to the 8 gay
Pyramid.
men who listen to us.
Pyramid schemes.
Okay, Michael Scott,
Avon,
continue.
Mary Kay, Arbonne.
Okay, so you're not interested in being your own boss.
No.
Got it.
My own boss babe.
Good.
Specifically.
She runs her own business.
Because I'm a boss babe. Okay, so I was like on a photo shoot or something, and I do like editorial photo shoots from time to time, which is basically I do hair and makeup for like kind of like crazier stuff where
That's
like
so cool.
for example, I turned someone into a tree at one point. Like it's kind of weird avant-garde stuff. So I meet this guy on a photo shoot. I'm like, okay, he's kind of cute. Like, not sure which way he's swinging. We're gonna test it out.
That's why he's cool.
And he seems to be swinging my way a little bit. So I'm like,
Love it.
okay, we're gonna try this out.
Bow, I
Yes,
believe.
We go, like, we hang out a little bit. We start chatting. I think we were on like, I don't know, like MySpace or something at this time. This is like back in the day.
Good.
And so we're chatting a little bit, and he's like, hey, you should come over. Like, I'll make dinner and everything. Okay, I should also preface this by saying I did not know how old this gentleman was at the time. And I'm not saying I did anything illegal.
Oh shit, I went so much older, but you ran the
Other direction.
No.
Way back.
I'm saying it was still legal.
Okay.
It was just like awkward.
Yeah,
Awkward. I don't know. I might have told you this story before.
Did you meet his parents?
Did he die?
I met his roommates.
Oh, okay.
So
that's actually so much sadder.
Yeah.
Weirder way.
And I'm like a grown ass adult at this point too. I feel like. So I go over to his house and he's like, I made dinner, and it was literally spaghetti. Like, and it wasn't like he made the sauce from scratch. It was like he was like. You like Prego?
And it's not Rouse either. You know it's not Rouse.
Yeah. So you like Prego, right? You like Prego? Okay, I got it. Veggies.
That's like my shame meal, not a meal I need you to make for me.
That is the meal that I know when I'm eating it. Oh, I'm not doing well.
Oh, shit.
Okay. I gotta take a day off. Oh, okay.
I'm not doing well.
I'm pretty good, right?
I need a DiGiorno style. So, I should preface this by saying this. This should have been my clue. He asked me to bring wine over.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, he just wants me to bring a refreshment.
Yeah.
No.
Or he legally
was
can't
20.
buy it.
And I was like 23, 24, 25-ish at this time. And I was like, I'm dating a child.
Oh my God.
So I go over to his house. We have spaghetti, and it's like a child. I literally
At
feel
this
like I was
point,
at
I'm
the
like,
child's table.
Is it SpaghettiOs? Like, what is it? Are you spelling
It's Chef
shapes
Boyardee.
in it?
It's a little mushy spaghetti. Clearly, no one's made spaghetti in this household. Anyone other than themselves at this point.
Oh my God.
And so I'm like, all right, whatever.
I hate
Like, okay, this is uncomfortable. So. That's the first date. Nothing happens. I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
Keep the wine.
Don't tell anybody. So I go back to my house and I'm living with another couple at the time. Long story short, I moved in with a girl. She ended up moving her boyfriend in. It was a weird situation.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, this guy is coming over.
You're seeing him again?
I see him one more time.
That's on you. That one's on you.
Yeah.
That's that
I'll
early
take it.
20s spirit and energy where you're like, I think I'm just almost to the top of this hill, and if I get to the top,
I'm still
things will be
young.
okay.
I'm still young and
My
vibrant.
rubric right now is, are you more interesting than frozen pierogies I have at home? And I'm gonna fucking
Hold
pull
up.
this trigger at any
I'm
moment.
getting a pull-up right now.
Oh, I love pierogies. I hope it's understood. This is not anti-pierogies. It is actually a bar so high, I've thought about putting other things in my freezer.
It's good. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. We mostly
second
go
heckle.
to like street fairs for pierogies. I'm not upset
Grant
about
needs
this.
to come with you, I think.
You can be a throuple with us.
Sean doesn't need to come. It's fine.
It's okay. So I go on like a quote unquote second date with this guy because he's like, hey, can I come over to your house this time? I'm like, okay, I guess, sure. So I warned my roommates. And here's where I get very embarrassed.
Oh, no.
Is he shows up with a woman who's in her mid-40s.
His mother?
Nope. Worse. She shows up with a little black kid, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
She's gonna
here?
sell you knives?
Oh my
I didn't like that!
Almost. So he's like, yeah, like, thanks for having me over. This is so great. And I've already told my roommates about this. I'm like, this guy's a little young. I bought him wine. I think I did something illegal the other night. I don't know.
But like, everyone deserves a second chance.
Also, I don't think my boyfriend's ever heard this story, so he's just.
I'm just here for the pierogies.
He's just
Pierogies for life. I love it.
He's just proud of me.
So a whole committee is at your front door.
Yes. So there's my female roommate, my male roommate, and the dog that lives there. And then also this guy and a middle-aged woman with a black case. And I'm like,
Oh, case? Not
And
at all
also-
what I thought you said at first.
no. So I should say also, this is all happening. Everyone's in the same room. This isn't like, let's come in my room and be private about this. This is like my roommates are like,
I would too, though. I'd be like, I need to know what the fuck they're doing.
Like you can already hear the da-dum, like Law and Order SVU in the background. Exactly.
So then she proceeds to open up the case, and I'm like, she's got a shit ton of makeup. Oh my fucking god!
I completely forgot we were talking about LML. I'm sorry.
So this motherfucker was selling Mary Kay and was trying to make me spaghetti dinners to get me to buy makeup for him because I did makeup on a photo shoot with him.
Was he himself the Mary Kay agent?
He was like kind of the Mary Kay pimp, I would say.
He was like the bait.
Yeah. Maybe that's a better way to say it. So, yeah. That was that's date number 2,
Maya,
guys.
can I ask you just a little private moment between you and I? Let's forget the word for a second. What was more shocking tonight, Lee's grandpa dying, or this fucking story?
Every one of us.
Let us know in the poll.
His name was Robert Paulson. His name was Robert Paulson.
Me and Jess talk almost exclusively about true crime whenever we get together. It's like, what documentaries have you watched in the 2 months
How
since
many
I've
murders
seen
are you interested
Yeah,
in?
so
right now?
Lee actually is my answer.
I'm speaking to like 4 resilient bitches in this audience right now. When you realize that this date isn't going to go on further, and him and the MLM Mary Kay,
Yes.
when you
Her name is Jennifer.
when
by the
Jennifer
way, in case anybody needs a hook
when
up.
Jennifer and him leave,
Scrubs are great.
do you realize before they leave or after they leave that this dinner for 2 is now just for you? Because that is how I'd be like, wait, what? All the raviolis for me. Get out! Get out! Get out right now!
The best
that
part
is
was when
absolutely
they
what I would do.
left. I was like, I sat there for like an hour and a half going over different like blue eyeshadows, and I was like, oh, yeah, I don't have money for any of those. I just graduated cosmetology school too, and then they leave, and my roommates are like. How is your date with your 20-year-old? Fuck you guys, okay? So
This is a traumatizing experience.
And then you ghosted them.
And then I ghosted everyone.
I love that.
Yeah,
And
they
that's
don't even
empowering.
know where I am now, so it's
This
okay.
one needs a round of applause. This is
That was
support.
good. That was really good. I love
Cheers
that.
to me or something. I don't know. I don't have a drink.
Cheers to surviving. Please give it up for my dear friend Ashley.
I'm joining the blanket brigade.
Ashley once texted me how much she loved the Mary Shelley episode.
Oh, I was live texting
yes,
it.
while Maya and I were recording another episode, I was like, hold on real quick. And we've talked about this before, where I got to kind of look at it now at an angle, where I was like, oh, hold on. Some of the good stuff about Mary Shelley. Here's the thing: when you get to a certain age, if you stare directly at the lights coming back at the phone, it's kind of hard to see. But if you kind of
Maddie, don't you dare start nodding.
but if you kind of get it from the side, then the light's kind of going up, but you can still see the time.
So-
Your mom was right, is what I'm trying to say.
So the context is Grant unexpectedly hit on a very niche interest of this English teacher. And did I text him to say, like, I will talk about Lord
Yes.
Byron with you for hours
Correct.
if you want to? I absolutely did.
Also, last little teacher bit before we hear the story.
Yeah.
Before we started any part of the night, I did what all veteran teachers know to do, which is to go up to the kid who you know their work is ready, but they're maybe not the first one to volunteer. And I was like, hey, Ashley, if we need a volunteer and no one volunteers, I'm going to go ahead and warm call on you. So this is you, about 7 minutes.
And you also
Be ready. That was 4 hours ago.
You also know I'm game because I am another speech coach.
Yes, I'm not alone. And I have enough of a professional reputation to get them outside. So,
This is true.
this theme of the evening is ghosted.
Yes.
And this theme, to wrap up our audience stories, is a moment in which you absolutely
Should have ghosted. But
Didn't.
I am another person who believes in communication. And I do not want to put more ghosting energy out into the universe because I'm sick and tired of getting it back.
Sure, but then you went on this date.
Then this date happened.
Oh, and then you're like, okay, I get it.
And then I realized I should have. So we'll get there. So Grant and I have been commiserating about being in the dating scene
100%.
for. I
we
re-entered
don't-
the dating scene
we don't
a
have to
year
put
ago.
any-
I re-entered the dating scene
We don't
a
need to
year
put any
ago.
timelines on it. Your ex ate with his mouth open. I'm sorry, it's the only memory I have.
There
I'm
were
like-
a lot of things
I'm
that
like,
happened.
we need that ballot. And he's like, oh yeah? And you can just, it's just mayo.
We were desperate, Grant.
Listen, there were times in which he was nice. And it's much like a horse, as long as they're not eating or you need them, then they're nice.
Correct. Okay, so we re-entered the dating scene about a year ago, and so I jumped full force into it, being like, you know what? I'm getting out there. I'm gonna like say yes to people that I maybe wouldn't have said yes to normally. Like I'm gonna go explore. I have to figure out what I want.
Dear listener, you can't see it, but about 80% of our audience just started going, yep. Been there.
You have also probably been there, dear listener, and that is, I just figured no standards. What would that be like? What if I just had no rubric at all?
Excuse me, I still had standards. I just maybe fudged some red flags early on. Grant has heard this story before.
I love this story, though.
Grant has stopped other conversations with people to rejoin the story before.
Ancient speech coach who is taking up my time. I'm sorry, I'm going to get back to you.
I need
Ashley's
to go
about to
hear
tell a
this.
new person this story.
Let's just say that a bunch of the older speech coaches are worried about me after this story.
It doesn't frame you well.
No, I promise I have better judgment than this, and a lot of it happened. I was working with very limited information going into this date. So I was very active on Hinge and matched with this guy on Hinge. And I had a prompt on my Hinge profile at that time that was like, my voice prompt was, I know the best spot in town to relive your scholastic book fair dreams with a cocktail in your hand. I'm sorry.
We have our audience right here. Everyone was like, where?
Phones are out right now. Phones are out.
So he responded to that, and he was like, I need to know where this place is. So I'm like, okay, this might be one of my people. And I tell him it's Book Bar, and unfortunately, Book Bar is no longer with us,
closed.
And it's. We'll get to that because that factors into the story a little bit later. And so I tell him it's Book Bar, and he goes, "Oh, we should go." And like we've planned a date much faster than I am used to planning dates on an app. I'm just like going for it. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Gay speed, but without the naked. I get it.
Yeah. And so we're talking. We're trying to figure out a time to do this. I I looked at part of his profile. Did I screenshot parts of it to send to my friends and be like,
Yes,
what are the odds that this man participates in LARP experiences? And the answer from my best friends was like 97%. And I said, I can work with that as long as I'm not expected to also participate.
Honestly, to find something with a hobby is so rare these days that like, oh, you do something on Sundays? Fucking amazing.
I don't have to talk to you on Sundays?
No! You do something on Saturdays. Go occupy
that's so
yourself
true.
while I am at speech
So what you need to
tournament.
understand is about me and 35 high school age children are going to be at a high school for about 14 hours.
Yep.
And then 7 years later, you're going to hire one of them
Yep.
to videography. and event
Your
for you. But
podcast.
until,
Daniel's like, why
appreciate
am
you,
I still
Daniel.
here?
Just so appreciate you too. You're a good assistant.
So we set up a date to go to Book Bar. He goes, let's go to Book Bar. I'm like, great. They literally close next week. And so my last experience of Book Bar is this experience of Book Bar. And
All of these people who have never heard of this place once are like, no!
Again, I can't reiterate enough. We killed someone on this stage tonight. Did not get that kind of sympathy.
Grant, I have a question for you. Of
course.
Should I sidebar the improv story or postscript the improv story?
Postscript the improv
Okay, I will postscript the improv story. So we meet at Book Bar. I realize in getting going to this date, but I've looked at his profile. I'm like, oh, you don't have your job listed. Okay, and he's like a couple of years younger than me, but I'm like, whatever. Again, exploring. And so I get to Book Bar. These shelves are nearly bare. And I was really looking forward to this one particular cocktail. The Cheshire Cat cocktail was my favorite at this Book Bar.
That's what a name.
And
I'm sorry,
they,
that sounds great, but
it was so good. They had run out of the ingredients for it. So
this was a horrible last experience.
really
injury,
strong
right?
start to this date.
So I find him in the stacks, and he introduces himself to me, and
Stacks,
the
you
stacks.
pervert.
Okay,
Stacks.
I'm also a library person. The bookshelves full of books, but they're mostly empty at this point. So we introduce each other, introduce ourselves because this is our first time meeting in person, and he mentions to me oh, as soon as I saw that you were a speech and debate coach, I knew we'd get along. And I was like, oh,
They have not yet gotten along.
there hasn't been time yet.
Right.
And this changes quickly. So I'm like, oh, why? And he goes, well, I did Lincoln Douglas and extemporaneous speaking.
That's where we
in high
make
school.
finance bros, if you want to know where they come from.
Or libertarians. Which comes back into play a little bit later. So I'm like, oh, are you local to Denver? And he goes, yeah, I went to insert local high school name
Right.
here. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then we're like maybe 10 minutes into meeting. Like, we've gone to the counter, we've ordered our drinks. He is baffled by the concept of a cannoli. He thought they were eclairs.
So he's pretty anti-Italian. That's really interesting in
And,
this climate.
Italian, Greek, and Scottish here, so I'm like, cannolis are not revolutionary, but okay. I order, because they don't have the Cheshire Cat cocktail available anymore, I order a margarita Atwood, which was
that's
a margarita, and he ordered a hot chocolate.
On a date?
The man is 30.
Oh. Yes. Someone from the audience just shouted, just leave. So accurate.
So, we sit down, we continue talking. We're like 10 minutes into the date, and I realize he's switched accents at least twice already.
Goodbye.
What do you mean he switched accents, Ashley?
At one point, it was kind of like when I mentioned that cannolis were Italian, he then went into an Italian accent. At one point, he like shifts into a French accent. It was a lot.
Is it Tyler? Are you on a date with Tyler?
I have not met Tyler in person until this
He's like, I can do a French accent because I can speak French.
So no, not Tyler. So we're sitting there, like we're talking. And as soon as he said that he did Lincoln Douglas debate and extemp, I was like,
Huge red flag.
oh shit. Because I immediately saw him as the 16-year-old debate boy that I imagined him to be
Right.
like, oh, we think we're smarter than we actually are. And as a debate coach who teaches the teenagers what they do in debate, I see through that act immediately.
Right.
So we're like having this conversation, and I'm trying to give him a chance. And I mentioned, I'm like, hey, so what do you do for work? You had said you taught night classes as we were trying to arrange a time for this date. So, like, what do you do? And he goes, well, I know you're a teacher, and this tends to be a deal breaker for people.
Because he
but-
hasn't hit one yet, but this is his first one.
I mean, like,
So you
we've
know.
got one tally in the
You have at
mark
least
right
one
now.
tally.
At
and
least
an
one
Italian accent.
right now. And then he picks up the book that he pulled off of the shelf, and he's like, well, I'm really into like reading people. And it was like,
Was it Jordan Peterson?
that would have probably been a better red flag than what he drops on me next.
Okay.
But the next thing that he says to me is, so I'm a gun dealer.
Nope.
And I'm immediately like leaning back. And I'm like,
Super casual. Have you ever wanted to be your own boss in a dynamic industry with lots of opportunity for growth?
I'm like,
I'll make you spaghetti and then come to your house.
I'm like, excuse me, as I'm like leaning away from him.
Chugging your Margaret Atwood as you.
Margarita Atwood. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Margaret Atwood. Sorry.
And so then he explains that like he teaches gun safety classes and he sells guns and like all of this stuff, and I'm
So
just
you're
like,
both teachers. That's so important to have.
not the same, Grant. Not the same.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, that's a deal breaker for me. And then like, okay, this is maybe 20 minutes into the date, and then he asked me if I could guess his political affiliation based
I
on all
can,
this.
I don't want to.
And I was being generous, and I said, maybe a liberal leaning libertarian? And he was offended by that. And so I'm just like, oh God, like.
Sorry, I know this is an audio format. Ashley has sparkles in her hair, like woven into her hair. She has sparkles.
Here's what I'm looking for in a future partner. They have to understand and appreciate the whimsy that I bring to the table. And this man, it wasn't whimsy that he was bringing to the table. I'm like, I don't know how I can find an out, because I literally drove from Aurora to Tennyson for this date. Like, it was a 45-minute drive, and I'm like,
You guys can't see this, but the number of times this evening we've gotten such understanding faces from our audience. People go, I get it. You had to at least do as long as the drive was.
Yeah. I try to like humor the conversation a little bit more, and then he decides to order a second hot chocolate. And I'm like, shit.
He's drinking hot chocolate this entire time.
I'm like, shit. I'm stuck here for a while again. And so then, like, conversation's sort of rolling a little bit more. We're talking about, like, me coaching debate and, like, all that stuff, because he was a debate kid, so he thinks he knows what coaching's like, and he doesn't. And then he drops on me this bombshell. I bet you didn't realize you're on a date with a Russian war criminal.
Who sells guns? Who sells guns?
Get me out of here!
You've already ruined Bookmark. Can't I leave?
Bookmark closes in 4 days. Like, I'm never coming back. This is my last experience here. And it was like my mecca because it was cocktails and books, and it was glorious. So I'm like, tell me this story. Like, I need a good story out of this. Like, kind of already got one with the gun dealer one, but I'm just like, please tell. Okay, go. Long story short, he was born in Russia. His family immigrated to Yugoslavia because
famous for its stability.
Well, and this is like in 1998, so like right before
they were the last
shit hits the
citizens
fan
of Yugoslavia.
In Yugoslavia, because his parents saw compulsory military service on his horizon,
Right.
so they moved to Yugoslavia. Then they have to immigrate back to Russia, and then ends up in Colorado by way of California, and here we are now. And I know his debate coach from high school, and that's all I can think of is...
You're on a date with like Kevin or Marty.
Oh my god. It wasn't Kevin or
No,
Marty.
I know. I'm trying to just put out generic names of friends that we love.
So it was just like, oh my god, okay. So like, if I separated this story, and then he ends up getting like, in his late teens, early 20s, he has to go back to Russia because his grandfather died, and gets to take by the Russian government because he was considered a draft dodger, and then brags about his grandmother's apartment being raided multiple times as they searched for him. And I'm like, this is not something you brag about. So I find my way to like make my exit. I'm like, you know what? It's a school night. I have
love
a
that.
7:15 a.m. meeting tomorrow. I gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
Great meeting you. Yeah, so I should have left it at that. I just should have never reached out. But again, I do not want to put...
I've never heard a more hostile. Where did you get tomatoes from? This is so weird.
Part of my commitment in this dating experience is like, I don't want to put ghosting energy out there into the universe, but now I realize like this would have been the right time.
Well, also, if he tells you're his coach, and then that's ruined a relationship you have with
Oh,
his
I don't think he's in contact with his coach anymore. So I wait several days, and I'm like, how do I tell this man that like, I don't want to see him again. Like, thanks, but no thanks. Good luck to you. Hope you find your equally as weird person. I'm not that person. And I am literally at National Qualifiers Congress.
A super easy breezy cover girl, no stress tournament at all.
Not at all. And my sister is there judging. And my best friend is there judging. And I literally pull them aside during the dinner break. And I'm like, so this date happened on Wednesday. And I need to figure out how to tell this guy, like, thanks, but no thanks. because generally men don't take it well when you say like thanks but no thanks. So I ended up just texting him like, hey, it was like also fortunate foresight from my part. I had not given him my number, so we had only exchanged messages over Hinge.
Crush.
And so I message him on Hinge, and I'm just like, hey, it was nice meeting you, but I like don't see this progressing past that.
Right.
Wish you the best. And his immediate, like literally within 2 minutes, response was, howdy, I kind of saw this message coming. And I'm just like, okay, fine. But also, howdy. So, a couple of weeks later, I'm sharing this story with other debate coaches.
We have nothing to do but gossip, and we're really good at telling stories.
Yeah. And one of our colleagues at another school, she looks at me and she goes, was his name
such and such?
Blank.
Right.
And I said, yes. And she goes, I remember him from like 10 years ago. And she goes, he was fucking weird. And I'm like, thank you for validating this. So then the postscript to all of this is there is a very lovely improv show that happens on South Broadway every Saturday at like 8 p.m. I will plug this little improv theater because it's delightful. It's Chaos Bloom Theater. They have an 8 p.m. Saturday show called Relationship. And they take stories from the audience and make them into improv sketches.
Oh, no.
So I was trying to wrangle my dear friend Grant to come one night because I'm like, this
I'm a
must
hot
be
ticket.
told
What can I say?
Shut up.
at the improv show. Needless to say, Grant ghosted me that night.
Listen, if I
Still love him though.
So there's a difference between canceling and ghosting, and if I ghosted, that means it went really well the earlier part of that night. And sorry, I love you. Hold on. What month is this?
Oh, it was after your national qualifying tournament. You met me for a drink after.
It's February. Okay. Yeah.
It was
no, it's early March.
It's early March.
I don't regret anything, but I am sorry. I want you to know that for the record.
So it's just me and my best friend Keely that go to this improv show. And I'm just like, I am committed to telling this story. So I vault, like my hand is the first one up in the air to be like, I have a fucking weird dating story to share. They give me the mic. I regale them with the story. The improv people did not believe me. They thought I was making this up. Keely takes, my friend of 22 years, takes the mic from my hand and she goes, she is not making this up. She is not creative enough to have made this up.
Actually, it's really
All right, first of all, fuck you.
I respect it. It was honest. Like, I'm not good at just coming up with stories. And let me just say, I've never been to the show that got as many laughs as my story did when they recreated it.
Hell yeah.
So, this is the lesson that, like, maybe sometimes ghosting is the right answer.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
And I have carried that forward because this is almost a year ago.
Can I also share?
Only for Russian war criminal gun dealers.
Can I also share real quick? Us educators, when we get the weird kid, we know. Then we spend every second we have pushing them away from whatever they are as hard and as fast as possible.
And it's like, sweetie, this is for your own good.
And I'm not able to say any names because some of the people here in this audience tonight were on my own speech and debate team with this child. But at one point, this child's senior year, I had coworkers come up to me and they're like, hey, is so-and-so on your speech and debate team? And I was like, yeah, 4-year senior, really proud of them. Again,
They've
keeping
grown
it
a
anonymous.
lot.
And they go, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. We were like, this person's either gay or spent a lot of time with Thomas. Let's figure out what it is. So we are absolutely trying our best. And like a libertarian that's like fine with gay people is sometimes 4 years of work. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. So like, but the fact that another coach 10 years later, he didn't even belong to this person. They were just like, oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
He was weird.
Let's give it up for Ashley.
So there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ashley.
gonna do an actual true crime story because there's a lot of them where people like just fucking dip after they do a crime, and then it got really dark, and then I was like, that might not be good for a live show, and so I went back to the drawing board and went into history and was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to do another World War II story. So we're doing another World War II story.
Ask me the question, Maia. Ask me the question.
I have Lydia, okay? So Grant, first bullet point.
Okay.
Join me
We
for a
love to
moment.
write that in the notes. We're like, so,
Are you gonna let me tell the story or not?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, cool. Join me for a moment as we're gonna go back to World War II in early March 1945.
Okay, I'm there.
Yeah. We're high up in the American forces, so we kind of know all the background, all
Sure.
the special secret stuff.
We've discovered Dachau.
Yes. And we're planning our moves to take more of Germany at this
Right.
time. Hitler's Reich is on the verge of total collapse. Our current goal is to take Ruhr, R-U-H-R.
The Ruhr Valley.
Ruhr Valley.
Yeah.
It's an industrial center in western Germany. There's one problem, though, which is the Rhine River.
Right.
Yes, which stands in the way. And the Rhine River has served as like a natural defense to protect what is now Germany from invasions from the west back all the way to when it was Rome. So this has been like it's a huge river. I think on average it's like over 1,000 feet in width across. And so it's been like a huge natural fortress almost. And Germany's defenses along the Rhine have remained super strong despite the downfall of the rest of Germany's regime. So we, the American, British, and French forces, proud to be, okay.
I'll take one grande ice latte. Oat milk. Oat. Como se dice oat in Prague?
So we currently occupy most of what's west of the Rhine. So our goal is to move east of the Rhine.
France.
However, that means we have to cross the Rhine, which is this massive river. So obviously that means we're gonna have to go like underwater. We're gonna have to find a natural crossing, which is gonna be very well defended. And so it's a huge logistical kind of nightmare. Okay, so we need some help.
Yeah.
To get across this river.
Okay.
Do you know what helps us? Who helps us?
Who helps us? Okay, there's like a bunch of different thoughts in my head. One, American forces discover a nearly intact bridge that Nazi engineers failed to blow up. So there's like potentially that.
Mhm.
There's also the help of like French resistant forces. But most importantly, there's this engineer who's figured out how to build a bridge in like 3 hours using a bunch of floating boats. So I don't know where I'm
Those
supposed
are
to
all
go.
great answers. Those are all
Thank
not
you.
what I'm looking
You
for.
heard it. Great answers. You heard it. You heard it here first.
This was a suggestion from Casey, actually, that I ignored the first time around
Traitor.
and did pirates instead. So what actually helps us is Operation Fiancee. Does that ring any bells?
No, it doesn't.
I found something about World War II that Grant doesn't
That's actually
know.
really, really impressive. Have I told you this? I have a dating rule that, like, at this stage in my life, if I meet a guy who's still really into World War II, it's code for Nazis. And it's almost never the side you want them to be on. And so I've like kind of really faded away from World War II. I'm really into like the lost generation of World War I. F. Scott Fitzgerald, Hemingway, things like that. I'm interesting.
I have a story.
Oh. Nazis bad. Anyways, go ahead. What you're gonna say?
So, Operation Fiancee is operated by the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. Does that mean anything to you?
Is this the Monument Men?
It's called the Ghost Army.
No. What is this?
So the Ghost Army doesn't actually ghost anyone, but they are a ghost army.
Tyler's context fully
Tyler's like, they haven't ghosted anyone yet. Till they meet me. So the Ghost Army assists greatly, and even if you look up how we cross the Rhine River today, a lot of the primary resources that you find aren't going to mention the Ghost Army because they were entirely classified until like the late 80s, and then they were reclassified again until like 1996. And so a lot of this information was not even ever public knowledge until 2022, I believe, when Biden officially like recognized them and gave them a congressional honor. There's only 10 of them that are still alive today.
Whoa.
And they all got like an incredible honor because they were part of this troop. So the Ghost Army assisted in this by creating the illusion of an entire other force that was,
Oh shit. Okay.
they set it farther south down the river,
And they had all of these kind of optical illusions to make it seem like there was this massive force that was going to cross the river down there. And so they drew all of these German forces down there, which lightened the load up there. And so Grant was right. They did cross the river up there with the bridge that was already made. And there was their Russian, prisoners of war built this bridge that actually, would not die.
Right.
Like, the Germans tried to blow it up to keep the Americans from crossing and it wouldn't explode.
Can I ask, did this Ghost Army take part in the D-Day landings?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, I got it. Calais, right?
It's all about him.
I did it. I did it.
I was hoping it would fall off. So they
Remarkably stable.
They did this with phony convoys hitting the road, spoof radio networks giving the impressions of major forces on the move. They had 600 inflatable tanks and artillery. They had fake sounds of military playing on large speakers, so fake training exercises that were playing. They actually began building a bridge to make it seem like they were going to try and cross the river, and so they tried to build a bridge. I don't know if they actually finished it. But crews kept up the pretense of the artillery fire with flash canisters, which actually worked because it drew German fire over there. And they didn't really damage anything except for rubber tanks. And then people were running around taping the holes in the tanks to keep them up. So they actually ran 20 deception campaigns during the final year of World War II. They had inflatable tanks, jeeps, artillery. They had falsified radio dispatches. They would kind of intentionally leak things so that the Germans would find them. These ruses are said to have saved an estimated 15 to 30,000 Americans, not even from other troops. They're known mostly for their efforts on D-Day and then this Operation Fiancee. The force was small, only 1,023 men and 82 officers. And their tricks led the Germans to believe, in the German in their battle planning, they've looked back and the Germans thought they were about 40,000 people strong. Yeah, so like I said, the records were reclassified again after the Smithsonian did an article. The government was like, okay, you guys can know about it. And then they're like, sorry.
I love
Never
the
mind.
British History Museum, which refuses to put British history in its museum. Feels like a great replacement to the Egypt section.
So they were made up of 4 units, and they were primarily all not fighting members. They were all artists, set designers, some engineers, and other creatives. They were, quote, more theatrical than military.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I'm just listen, the army's already pretty gay. We know that. I'm not being offensive because gay isn't wrong, and also I've matched with far too many Marines. But I couldn't imagine a gayer army than one that has to design set props as part of their. And then, because I have that ADD brain that kind of spins a little bit, and I jump all the way to the producers and the fake musical where they're springtime for Hitler, and there's there's Uma Thurman in a tank, it's just legs in a tank. I know that's not it. I know that's not it. Yes, exactly. And there's a little bottom with bleach blonde hair who has a little Nazi cap. That is how I envision. I know that's not it. I want to point out, I know that's not it, but that is what is in my brain. I'm yeah, I get it. Nathan Lane fucking kills, absolutely.
Here's another quote. It was a traveling roadshow that went up and down the front lines impersonating the real fighting outfits.
It's not all good.
They're also remembered as one of the smartest troops. Their average IQ was 119.
Ooh.
Yeah. Another quote, the adjustment from man of action to man of wile was most difficult. Few realized at first that one could spend just as much energy pretending to fight as actually fighting. Here's a few of the battalions and troops that were in it. The 603rd Camouflage Engineering Battalion Division, they created 93-pound inflatable tanks that looked like the real thing from thousands of feet in the air. My favorite part about this is that they would camouflage them, but not well, intentionally, so that they would get bombed by the Germans. There was the 3132 Signal Service Company and the Signal Company Special, which made the illusion of the tanks sound real with recordings of training exercises and construction. And they also sent out radio messages. There's the 406 Engineer Combat Company, which was like arguably the only like army part of this. They actually did perimeter security and construction and demolition. Which is as close as they came. Here's a quote. "It really did make a dent in the German planning. It kept them confused. It kept them off balance. The Germans fell for it terrifically. They saw groups of tanks and they heard people marching back and forth at night. They were so convinced that they sent over their jet plane bombers and fighters." And one of the members recalls learning how to construct fake planes and trucks out of wood, which they then camouflaged intentionally, imperfectly, to draw out the enemy aerial scouts. And now there's only 10 members of this force still alive. In February 2022, Biden signed a bill granting these members the Congressional Gold Medal for their, quote, unique and highly distinguished service in deception operations. And that's that story.
Let's first give a round of applause. Can I also say, there's like a moment where you girl boss a little too hard, and there's actually a Nazi army on the other side of the river. And you're like, oh fuck. We got a bunch of stage makeup and an inflatable balloon.
They would make tanks out of wood, and they would like post posters of the 23rd Regiment in like the towns, so it would seem like they were real, but then they would go into all the bars and be like, no, it's not real. Like, you're okay. Everything's fine.
They're telling drunk locals, it's a fake.
It's made out of wood.
Okay, we're gonna pivot very briefly. Unless, do you have any final thoughts? Classic us, final thoughts.
Please tell your
Okay,
story.
so like Lee is literally shaking in the corner over there. No, not Leland, not my ex. Good, thank you, Tyler. Boo! Get more tomatoes out. All right, so my story is what?
It's fine.
My story is officially the only ghost story that we've shared on this entire series.
Ironic, because you don't like believe in ghosts.
I don't believe in ghosts at all. Me and Houdini, Sir Conan Arthur Doyle, like we are ride or dies. It's a fake, okay? But it was ghosted, and I was like, well, I better do something about ghosts. And so this is as close as I've gotten. And I was actually introduced to the story when I was like 10 or 11 years old because I was, shocking no one, really into the History Channel as a child. But like back when it was World War II documentaries, again, when you hit my age and you're still watching them, Nazi. But at the time, I was just like a freak who had no friends, and I was like, yes. But like everyone knows now, the History Channel is just Ice Road Truckers. But there was a really there it is.
It's real.
There was like Ice Road Truckers, and then one show where you build a house in Alaska, but they don't help. Like it's weird. I don't know. But it's like there's a really important like middle evolution stage between World War II documentary and Ice Road Truckers, and it was the History Channel series History's Mysteries, which I loved. Ooh. And that is when I discovered this story. Maia, because we always start off with a question, and y'all don't know it yet because hold on, have we published Agatha Christie? We have. Yes, so you all do know about this one. Maia, if I were to have a type of story that I like to share...
Misrepresented women in history! Yes. I have my answer, Steve Harvey.
I am a feminist. Okay, so what misunderstood woman lived in San Jose, California?
That you've covered?
No, that I'm about to cover. Okay. Sarah Winchester was born. Has it ring a bell?
Do you know? I know from Supernatural.
So what am I about to talk about?
I don't know. All I know is the name Winchester.
What do I know from Supernatural? What do you know? Don't ask.
Something about the Winchester house. I'm appalled.
Today's sources are, my sources are Wikipedia, House Beautiful, and Atlas Obscura, because I'm going to shotgun story tell the story of the Winchester Mystery House located in... We had the same writing assignment.
I'm gonna do better when I do this full thing.
Oh, well, same. Sorry, the like continual bits on bits on bits. When we interacted with Danny and Tyler in Munich for the first time, we were so deep into our own fucking insanity. I was going like, now add a cricket, and Maya was like running through traffic laughing. We had a time. Anyways, okay. So, Sarah Winchester was born in New Haven, where she was part of East Coast society. In 1862, she married a person who she'd get her last name from, William Witt Winchester. www.winchester.com. So, for those of you who haven't pieced it all together yet, William Witt Winchester, he's famous for the Winchester rifle, which murdered a bunch of people. So what's been fun about so it was the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, and what was fun is you could shoot someone and then just pull down and then pull back up and it would have reloaded, as opposed to like the
I can't believe you cheated on my wife. Hold on just 1 second.
It's quicker to make a gin fizz than it is to reload, but then the Winchester Rifle Company comes around. And so what you need to know about Sarah Winchester is two really crucial things. She marries into wealth, and then he dies 19 years later.
So she gets a bunch of money.
Correct. And also because I love a theme. I don't know what's going to happen when you force me to leave the 1920s. But in the... like in 1884, when her mom, stepmom, grandfather, husband, and infant child dies, but she also inherits nearly $50 million. She goes to a meeting.
Houdini's like, no!
Listen. I searched Sarah Winchester, Sir Conan Arthur Doyle. I looked for the connection. The writer of Sherlock Holmes, who also fully believed you could communicate with the dead, and at no point proved that. Anyways, so she goes apparently to a Boston medium who tells her a couple things. First, you gotta get out of town. You gotta fucking go to San Jose. You gotta get out of here. Second, everyone who's ever been killed by a Winchester rifle hates you and is haunting you. Third, when you get to the west, all those ghosts all around you, you gotta build a weird house. And that weird house will keep you safe. And so Sarah Winchester travels to the west. She sets up a home in San Jose, California, and begins a reconstruction on like a 4-room farmhouse that will go on for her entire life, and when she dies, feature gold plating, 2 ballrooms, and like a chandelier everywhere, much like my sister's changing room in Nebraska. That's such a deep cup reference, 4 people get it. Anyways, so she goes off and builds Winchester House in San Jose, California, and Winchester House is nuts. You can absolutely go visit it. There's a bunch of windows that when you open them, just a wall. There's a bunch of staircases that go straight up into the ceiling. There's a trap door you can open, and it's just a 40-foot drop down below. There's a cabinet that when you open the cabinet, there are 30 rooms behind it. It's an insane place to be because Sarah Winchester was under the belief that by building a house that didn't make any sense, the ghost could not reach her. And she could take like a crazy path throughout, and her own home is so complicated that it was impossible for anyone to reach her. And she was a deeply devout spiritualist, and no one could ever really get a hold of her. And when she died, her home was still under construction, and she'd been spending the Winchester rifle fortune on like confusing these ghosts. And today, you can travel to San Jose, California, and that is the version of events that they will tell you as they collect your money. That's actually not the truth. And so the second half of this episode of Ghosted is the misunderstood. I know. You couldn't think I was actually gonna do a ghost episode. Did you think I was really gonna? And so tonight we have Sarah Winchester, ladies and gentlemen.
She's still alive.
Exactly. No.
It's Aunt
Okay.
Bonnie.
So there's several things you need to know about Sarah Winchester. First and foremost, there is no record at all of the median she visited in Boston. The name's like well recorded. At no point is there a median in Boston by the name of the person she supposedly talked to. There's also literally zero literary transcript or any record at all of her talking about ghosts or of her intentionally trying to hide from the ghosts or anything like that.
So you're telling me that she actually had no reason and just built a crazy ass house?
What happened was everyone died, she got a lot of money, and she bought a shithole and flipped it. That's that is legitimately
Lydia! You can do better!
She moves to San Jose, she starts flipping this home. So she's known as a recluse, and that's like another crazy lady. She lost all her teeth to gingivitis. And so she didn't want anyone to see her. And also all of her stairs are really shallow because she had like debilitating arthritis and could not lift her legs up. And also all the like crazy windows that lead to nothing is she kept building because her father was an architect and a carpenter, and she had grown up with a love of like home design. And so she built the home, and then she just built another thing. And that meant eventually after a while, you like paneled in a window to like build something else. And so all of these things can be understood. Like the room that had a trap door that would then drop down was a greenhouse, and she built her own like drainage system if it like flooded. And all of that makes sense, but you're like, what about
40-foot drop?
Yes, 100%.
For drainage?
Well, if you wanted a greenhouse on the 4th of July, the thing that's hardest for her to beat, the rap that's hardest for her to beat, is the staircase that leads directly into the ceiling. Those of us who are familiar with it are familiar with that photo specifically. History's Mysteries fucking love that. Here's the thing about that staircase. It leads from the 4th to the 5th floor in a house that used to have 7 floors. There was a terrible earthquake in like 1904 that collapsed the first 3 floors, and Sarah Winchester never bothered to reconstruct. So all of the staircases are just to the second half of the house. And she was like, fuck that anyway. She's like, I can't even fucking walk up those steps anyways. Again, debilitating arthritis. And so what's so funny is that the Sarah Winchester, the Winchester House page is like, ooh, come check out our like haunted mansion. And then Atlas Obscura, which is clearly like a tourist website for haunted places, doesn't talk anything about the ghost, but it's like Sarah Winchester, wealthy old lady, have fun. And then Wikipedia was like, she was wrong, and y'all are assholes. Like, Wikipedia is so insanely hostile about all of the rumors that are spread about Sarah Winchester. She was an old lady who didn't show her face in public because it didn't have any teeth, and just loved architecture because it reminded her of her father. And remember, everyone's dead. And also, she has essentially an unlimited amount of money. If you want to go to the Winchester House today, which will cost you about $29.99, you can walk around and experience kind of like a disorienting house. That is disorienting when you remember that it was 4 rooms when she bought it, and that 3 of the floors collapsed in on themselves. But if you suspend that and you want to believe in ghosts, people have experienced ghost sightings there before, much in the same way I've been hungry at 3 p.m. Kind of like, you know what it's like, like, it's chilly out, I need to pee. Like, I don't know. Like of course you wanted to see a ghost, and that's great. The thing is, people believe Sarah Winchester still haunts the mansion, and the people who are most mad about that
are also dead. Because Sarah Winchester left in her will like a sizable fortune for all of the people who worked at her house, all of whom officially talked to newspapers at the time who were like, y'all were mean to her, and that's why she wasn't out in public, and she was a really nice lady, and at no point did she hold seances or believe in ghosts, and she cared about us deeply enough to like take care of our retirements. And the newspaper heard that and said, you dumb horse.
Sweet baby.
And you will come to San Jose then. In fact, in 1897, and this is the last detail, in 1897, the San Jose newspaper ran an article defending Sarah Winchester, who said, listen, this is legitimately from the article. They were like, if we're gonna poke fun at every rich person with weird hobbies, why would anyone want to move to San Jose? And that is such an ironclad defense of Sarah Winchester that I think we can officially leave it there. So go to San Jose, give them their money, but remember Sarah Winchester was just a woman who didn't give a shit about arms deals and loved architecture. Guys, thank you for coming tonight. There's also inside in this house.
Welcome back.
Hi.
We hope you enjoyed that live episode.
Oh, we recorded that little intro you heard 3 hours ago. Yeah, for us, that was about 60 seconds ago.
But we hope you had a great 3 hours in between. Yeah, our next theme, since we didn't announce it at the live show, is...
Influential Secrets.
Da, 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 da. Okay. Well, if you want to find us on social media, we're at Well I Laughed on basically everything. If you want to give us an email, we're at wellilaughdpod@gmail.com. And if you would love to support us, we would love to have you. We have a little Discord and a great little community, and it's Well I Laughed Podcast.
It's a lot of fun. The content is increasingly unhinged, and it's there that we get to talk about things like the relaunch of our merch store, other cool special events, and things like that. So we would love to have you guys join us there. But until then, we really do hope at some point you laughed.
Yes. Okay, bye.
Bye.